T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight is a round two of what some would say is maybe the best ever episode of Kush's Corner. And that is with Mr. Vin Russo of Cutting Edge Herpetoculture, and Mr. Chris Rice of Wekiva Herpetoculture. Lots of awesome stuff to get into. Of course, boas will be a topic, emeralds will be a topic, scrub pythons, many, many things. I'm excited to get into this episode. Before we get into that, of course, as always, though, USARK. So USARK is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out usark.org for everything you need to know about the organization. That website is where you can find alerts to new pieces of legislation introduced either at local levels or the national level, as well as any updates on any pieces of legislation. usark.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers, and the more people that are behind the cause, the better. And here we are. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in, either live here on YouTube. Shout out to everybody in the live chats, or if you're checking it out after the fact. But if you are here on YouTube and you are not already, please subscribe to the Trap Talk Reptile Network. New podcasts come out every single day of the week, sometimes even twice a day here on the network from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of reptile-related topics. So if you are a reptile podcast fan, you have come to the right place. But if you are more like myself and are an audio podcast fan, we're on all the major platforms, be that Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A follow and a 5-star review on any of those platforms would be most appreciated. And for everything kind of behind the scenes I have going on, early access to projects that I'm releasing, and just the best overall way to support the podcast, patreon.com/Kush Reptile. Over there at the Patreon, 50% of all membership fee immediately becomes credit towards the purchase of an animal, and that credit never expires. So shout out to all the Patreon members. We really have a pretty cool community building up over there, and shout out to everybody who checks it out. Definitely excited to get into this episode, but we are going to hear a word from some of our sponsors that make this channel possible before that. So sit tight. We'll be back here with Vin and Chris in just a few minutes.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Shout out to tonight's sponsor brought to you by ZooMed.
ZooMed is proud to be supporting the Trap Talk Reptile Network. At ZooMed, reptiles are our passion. For over 48 years, we've been creating premium foods, supplies, and habitats for reptiles and other exotic animals. We're a company made up of hobbyists that test our products on the hundreds of animals that we care for here every single day. Whether you're an established breeder or a first-time hobbyist picking up your first ball python, ZooMed has you covered with everything you need to keep your animals happy and healthy.
I'm excited to talk about this new product with ZooMed called the Slither Sense. It is a remote temperature and humidifying monitoring system, which we all know how important temperature and humidity is to your reptile. And for you to have remote access to your temperature and your humidity in your reptile room could really, really be a game changer for the longevity of you keeping reptiles. So guys, make sure you check out that product. Find the link in the description below. Click on it right now. Give me your feedback in the comments below. Let me know how you're liking a brand new ZooMed product. Shout out to tonight's sponsor, Workshop Reptilium. Josh Hansen is doing things different over in his facility. He has one of the most diverse, beautiful reptile collections currently in the reptile hobby today, but he is doing things differently when it comes to enclosures, thinking outside the box, giving these reptiles bigger enclosures. I feel like it's something this hobby needs. So a lot of exciting stuff to come from Workshop Reptilium. I'm going to be flying up to his place to give you guys a deeper look into his facility. And I'm also excited to have an episode with Josh so he can explain himself where his goals are headed when it comes to keeping. Thank you so much, Josh Hansen over at Workshop Reptilium. Make sure you head over to Instagram. Make sure you head over to Facebook. Also, make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube. You can find all the links in the description below. Again, thank you so much, Josh, over at Workshop Reptilium. Shout out to tonight's sponsor, and that's the one and only Morph Market and Morph Market Shipping. One of the biggest exciting things about the reptile hobby over the past couple years is Morph Market Shipping taking everything to the next level. Anything as far as reptile purchasing or selling needs can all be done on Morph Market's website, so I highly suggest you go check it out, especially if you're in the market of purchasing your first, second, or third, or fourth reptile. You can find a bunch of legitimate breeders on Morph Market's platforms. They stand very tall on representing the best breeders we have in the hobby, so don't look anywhere else when it comes to looking for your new reptile. Not to mention, if you're looking for aquatics or your next plant, Morph Market's a spot for you as well. Make sure you head over to morphmarket.com, and the best thing about Morph Market's platform, you could ship directly from their website with Morph Market Shipping. Morph Market Shipping has saved this hobby millions of dollars as a whole. I myself saved thousands with Morph Market Shipping last year due to their insanely cheap rates, so definitely go take advantage of these rates on top of the amazing customer service that comes along with Morph Market Shipping. Shout out to Darian and Zach, and shout out to the entire Morph Market team. So proud to be a part of this team. Thank you so much for Morph Market Shipping and Morph Market, and so excited to announce new Morph Market features that are going to be hitting the reptile hobby real soon, like live sales on Morph Market. Thank you so much, Morph Market and Morph Market Shipping.
All right, here we are. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's
Hey
up,
guys.
How you guys doing?
Not bad.
Good. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Everybody's audible.
Yes.
Yep, I can hear you.
Alrighty.
That's wonderful. Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight. The last episode that we did, which was, man, well over a year ago at this point, probably got more positive feedback than on any other episode I've ever done. So it was a no-brainer to do it again.
It was a fun one. What did we do for that? Did we do 4 hours that time?
We came really close. I think it was like 3:45.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Let's go for 4:45 this time. No, I don't think I got it in me tonight.
This is what will be happening. I'll be sleeping here. Chris, you'll just be like ASMRing into the microphone, and I'm not sure. Vin, I'm not sure if you can.
You guys
that,
need to understand spraying.
So, Chris, on that topic, though, we kind of got to get serious for a second. How's your recovery going?
Well, I mean, I'd rather. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but
It's very pertinent, though.
yeah, you remember that I had that issue where I was watching an episode of your show.
Right. I felt bad. I felt responsible, so I just want to make sure you're okay.
Well, Ryan's the one who said it, so
I know,
it should
but
be.
it's my platform. Like, I platform somebody who could put you in the hospital. So
No. Vin's looking like he doesn't know
like,
what this is.
going
It
on?
was some horseshit skit we did a while back. I did a while back, but no, I've gotten quite a few comments about that, but I'm doing better. I'm recovering.
okay, good.
So
I think I had some people legitimately think that something was wrong with you when I reposted that. They're like, "I hope everything's
Oh, yeah,
all right."
no, I
I'm
had
like,
multiple people. I didn't realize that I guess I'm a pretty good actor with that, because I had a few people that reached out. They're like, dude, you had me right to the very end. So.
Well, I think the main thing that should have tipped everyone off in the beginning was the like obviously fake hospital noises that were superimposed on the video.
I thought it was corny, but it worked. It worked just well enough to where it was convincing. So.
And I think it really comes down to just the lack of attention span people have these days, where the video was like a minute long or a minute and a half long, but you couldn't watch until the like 50-second mark where the joke actually occurs.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, Chris, I share it. I hope everything's okay. Prayer hands. It's like, but so Vin, to bring it to speed, I had Ryan Young on the show a few months ago, and he was talking about back in the day, he used to keep a spray bottle in his incubator and spray his eggs daily. And that sent Chris into, I believe, a mild coma for a period of time.
No, you know what's funny though? I have less of a problem with that. That it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, the joke was just for fun, of course, but I've had some people that were like, I can't believe that. And I'm like, actually, I could. If it worked, it worked. You know what I mean? I have no issue with it.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that before.
A long time ago, Eugene was at one of my breeding facilities. This is like 25 years ago. And I had some retic eggs. This is when I bred those dwarf island retics. And I set them up and I sprayed them. And I put them in a box and put them in the incubator. And he looked at me. He's like, Vin, if you worked for me, I'd fire you right now.
But see, how were you going about it? Like, was it because I know that Ryan? I think Ryan said that he learned that from Tracy, if I remember correctly. That was a technique that she was doing at one point. So I mean, when you were doing that, how were you going? You weren't spraying them daily, or were you just spraying them like a couple times?
It wasn't daily. I basically set them up. I guess the female had laid them, and she wasn't completely encircled around them, and so they looked a little dry.
Yeah.
So I set them up on. I used just vermiculite mixed with some perlite, and I remember they looked a little dry, so I just misted them down. So, and I figured I'd add a little more moisture to them before I, put the lid on the Rubbermaid and put them in an incubator. And Eugene was like, "You never spray eggs." I'm like, "Dude, I spray them all the time."
Yeah, so it has to be just an airflow thing, as long as the airflow, because obviously it wouldn't work if the airflow wasn't there. It would just you'd be dealing with mold and all sorts of problems.
I think well, look at it this way. There's one thing I realized when I was breeding. Again, this is a long time ago. I was breeding berms and retics, and those you couldn't kill those eggs if you tried. I mean, I'm just I'm not bragging. I'm just saying. They were almost indestructible. Yeah. So I noticed that if you sprayed them down, they literally looked dry within a couple minutes. They absorbed it. They were like, they're living. They're sucking up the moisture in a way. So then when I started having females maternally incubate, I did it with berms. I did it with retics. I did it with chondros. I still do. I noticed that people would say, "Oh, can the eggs get wet?" I'd be like, "No, they can't, because in the wild, they're not in constant contact with moisture. The female's wrapped up on them, and she's creating a seal, Yeah. She's like sealed up on them, but there's no moisture in there, meaning there's no condensation building up. It's just that female's body, it's her scales. So if you miss them down when they're incubating yourself without a female and a nest around them, then they'll absorb that moisture on their own, and they'll be fine. You just don't want them in constant contact with moisture.
Mm-hmm. What I had a couple times with I think I did this twice with chondro eggs, where it was failed maternal incubation, where the female had abandoned the nest because I didn't set it up right. You know what I mean? The thing I always dealt with that I kept doing idiotically year after year was setting them up with not enough airflow and getting condensation built up at some point, and then you got constant contact with, what I mean? And then female would eventually abandon them, but then you'd have some eggs that were moldy and rotten, and then a couple that were dried out. And I did something similar. Instead of spraying, what I did is just took really damp perlite and put that on those eggs, just right on the top, half buried them basically, and then they would wick up that water, over the course of the basically a few hours or so, and then plump right back up. Right. And then I just brushed that off and worked pretty well.
Yeah, that definitely works.
Okay. So that you think the issue with the maternal setup was just the fact that there wasn't enough airflow going on there?
That's what I think. I mean, I tried it. I had success one time with it, and that was a setup where there was a little bit better airflow in the in the nest box. And overall, the cage was also set up different to where there was more airflow in the entire cage. So what I kept running into is the AC would basically end up swinging the temperature up and down too much, and then at some point I'd get condensation built up inside the nest box, and then
did you use a plastic nest
Yeah.
box?
Although I had it one time with a wooden box as well, but it got moldy, but that female abandoned as well. But yeah, plastic was definitely worse. So.
I realized many years ago that the females that are maternally incubating do far better if you just keep them dry.
Yeah.
Because they're creating their own moisture within their coils, like I was saying. So, like, some people want to miss the female or, keep her really humid. I'm like, no. And I learned this by just accident, meaning I had a female chondro lay eggs, and it must have been a year where I must have had a dozen clutches at one point, and I just didn't look at one that often, and looked at it one day and they were hatching. I'm like, wow, that's a little faster than I thought. And the inside the nest box was bone dry. So it was like that, and those eggs all hatched perfectly fine. So I learned from that point. I'm like, I guess I don't have to really keep these females as humid. Plus, the building I was keeping stuff in at that point was already, it wasn't like a dry house,
Yeah, it seems to be the thing. It's like, everybody I've talked to that's had success has had that opinion after a while. It's like, after trying a bunch of different stuff, it's like you got to keep the nest box itself dry, and then the rest of it, and just because let them control it. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna, as long as it's not bone dry, like the whole cage,
right.
But that's kind of common sense with that. I wanted to ask you about this with your nest boxes. You usually generally do pretty shallow boxes, like bird boxes, right?
They're a birdhouse, and they're 7-8 inches tall.
Have you ever tried any like deep ones?
What do you mean by deep? How deep?
Like over a foot or even a foot deep, with like packed with moss. Because I tried it one time with a plastic box. It was about, I want to say it was a Cambro container, and I want to say it was about 13 or 14 inches deep, and I had it pretty much packed to almost to the rim with moss. And it was interesting because I've never seen a female do this. She actually dug like a hollow. So she like spun down and made a hollow and then covered herself and laid her eggs. And I hadn't seen that before, so I always wondered, like, do they prefer that or what the more natural way for them to do it would be?
Well, the only photo I've ever seen of a chondro with eggs in the wild was, I wish I still had it. It's when my brother went to Indo many years ago. He was showing me a photo of a chondro in a bamboo tube on eggs, but it was a thick bamboo. It was like, like that, 6-inch around bamboo, and bamboo is segmented, and it must have been one that broke off. The top broke off, so a snake went down in there and laid its eggs in there.
Wow!
But it looked like it was pretty far down,
Yeah.
And maybe it was probably tilted a little bit so the rain didn't get in. I don't know. I wasn't there to physically see the whole thing. I just saw a shitty photograph from probably some guy, one of their collectors, finding stuff. But I'm assuming in the wild that they're either in the hollow of a tree or they may even be underground, like in a hollow root,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know there's been some people that theorize that they're going to the ground, and either one's probably, like anything else, it probably whatever they find. If they find something that's a little off the ground that works, they will. If they find something underground, they will. But it made me, when seeing her the way that she did that, it kind of made me think, like, all right, well, when I've seen the females laying when I only have a couple inches of moss, it looks like they're trying to do the same thing. They're spinning, they kind of spin and do. It's like they're trying to burrow down. But because I had it deep, she was able to burrow down pretty far, and it was just interesting to see, that she actually completely, went almost. I think she did go to the bottom of the container. So, like,
you've heard me talk in other podcasts because I used to breed birds. I used to breed budgies, English budgies, and I did cockatiels a couple times too. So I literally was using the nest boxes that I used for the budgies on the chondros, same exact box.
Yeah.
So they're 7 by 7 by 8 tall, 7, 8, and they got a 1.5 inch hole in them, maybe 2 inch. The boxes that I used for the cockatiels were a little bigger. They were maybe 10 inches tall and maybe 9 square. Those again, there's no holes in the bottom. It's just a wooden box. And I would see mold sometimes on the inside if the female's cage was very humid, and I learned to just dry that out a little more. She doesn't need to be soaking wet, especially underneath. You don't want to get moisture under that wooden box because it literally seeps up through the box.
Yeah, I had that.
That's wood is like a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
So what I also do is I take a ceramic crock and I turn it upside down and I put the nest box on the ceramic crock. It's one of those big ceramic crocks. It's like 10 inches.
Yeah.
Turn those upside down. I put the nest box on top of those.
Yeah.
So this way it's a couple inches off the floor. It worked. It was something that I still do it to this day. I mean,
I still want to do it. I chickened out this year with being in the new place, so I've got the clutch that's cooking at the moment. A couple of those eggs have gone bad since she laid them, but I was able to just, as soon as I smelled that the one was going bad, I popped it out, and so I think either 2 or maybe 3 have gone bad from that. But I was going to try a maternal again, but we just had some changes here with the property next door. They cut some trees down, and now our house is actually getting warmer because some of that shade is gone.
Yeah.
And so I noticed the room was spiking up hotter than before. So I'm like, man, I don't want to deal with unpredictability. And so I chickened out and went with the incubator this year, but I definitely want to do maternal again. And I've just got this thing where it's like, I gotta nail this. I gotta get this.
It's
just,
worth a shot, especially if the female will do it,
Mm-hmm.
It's worth a shot. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've incubated plenty of eggs in my life, and the best clutch results I've had were from when the female themselves incubate the eggs, not me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not knocking, because I know a lot of the designer guys are using incubators, and I don't blame them, because some of those snakes are really expensive. So
don't they seem to? Is it true that the designers seem to be less inclined to do it?
All the ones I had were horrible maternal incubators. All of the OS high yellow stuff I had, and that's all I really had as far as designer. Back in 2003, I think it was, Eugene and I made a transaction, a big trade. He wanted to get into some fancy ball pythons, and I wanted to get into more fancy chondros. So I ended up getting 4 of his really nice OS high yellow stuff, and one was a blue. And those females would not incubate their own eggs. None of them did. None of their offspring did, so.
So would they just loosely coil, or would they just not?
No, they would just scatter them all over the fucking place.
Weird. That's so weird.
Yeah. But again,
there's jokes. There's some kind of like handicapped jokes to be made there, I think. But
hey, it could have just been the particular females I had. It was only 3 of them, so
yeah.
I can't go by that small gene pool.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I've seen some people with hybrids that have, wrapped them up, and it probably I think I want to say a couple people in Europe that I've seen that did maternal with hybrids. So hybrids is something I would be interested to talk about a little bit at this point. At some point tonight, we can do it now if you want, or I don't know if that's on the agenda.
Hey man, yeah, it definitely was, but yeah, let's get into it.
What I get? Where's everybody at with everything there? Like, I know we all pretty much seem to have similar I think overall similar views on it. Like, we're not necessarily completely against it, but obviously favoring more of the locality stuff and keeping things pure. Let me see where I had my thoughts on it. Did I not have it on these notes? Shit, I don't have it. I'll just try to remember. So I'm doing a Rue Biak clutch.
What?
Again.
Okay, that was enough.
You got rid of them?
Hey, I deserve it. I'm catching. It's funny because I'm catching shit like that from multiple people, and it's funny because it's like I never. That's that's what I started out with, was an Rue Biak clutch. That was my first clutch in 2020, and that's the one kind of hybrid project that I've always thought. I like the look of those second gen animals.
Don't evolve within herpiculture, right?
Yeah. But no, I was thinking about it a little bit because it's it's obviously been a hot topic with various species and everything, and I have no plan to do that at all at any point with the emeralds, and I really don't think I'll probably ever do anything other than just these Rue Biaks with the chondros either.
Where it starts.
But I could change, but you know what it is? I've noticed, and I don't know if it's an age thing. Because I remember when I was younger, the crazier morphs and even some of the hybrid stuff, like, it was more attractive. But it's just, I see some of that stuff, and it's just like, it just genuinely doesn't do it for me anymore. I'm not like so against it, and I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to be happening. Like, people are doing it. But what I guess what I'm kind of wondering about is do you guys see a general positive trend, and do you have any thoughts on encouraging people to take an approach of like, look, learn, or kind of, I don't know if you have to force yourself. I would hope you wouldn't have to force yourself to appreciate the wild type animals more, but how do you kind of get people to adopt that mindset that, us upper class, clearly superior-minded people have, where we can appreciate the wild-type pure locality animals and the crosses without having a huge clash about it, you know.
Oh, Vin, I'll let you take this one first.
Well,
Like, can you encourage that in people, or is it just something that they either appreciate it or they don't? Because I almost feel like it's a marketing thing. Like people start off appreciating. You always hear like everybody starts off appreciating. Oh, you know, classic with chondros is like, what's better than a nice high white Aru, right? Or like a Merauke or something. But then at some point, I feel like marketing gets to them and they're like, you know, fuck those things.
well, if you think about it, I did that already with locality boas.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I did it was I, emphasized the fact, the beauty of each unique type of locality,
Yeah, just showing it off, basically.
Yeah, just showing it exactly. And they sell themselves. I didn't have to do any marketing scheme,
Mm-hmm.
A really good photograph of a Hog Island boa that's got a lot of orange and pink on it with black speckles. People go nuts,
Yeah.
A really nice Pokey Grand Suriname with a deep red burgundy tail and like black markings on the top. People go nuts. So it's like, number one, it's learn how to take photographs, which I did a video about that on my Patreon recently. Just to get the true colors, to get the, because you want people to see the Mother Nature's beauty, you want them to see what's going on. So that's like step number one. And step number two is we already know, if I go back 35 years, 40 years to when I was younger and chondros were coming out of the wild, very rarely they were just chondropython. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't. You didn't buy them as Biocs, Arus, Maruks, nothing. They just came in as green tree pythons. That was it.
Yeah, I remember that. It was whatever it was. It was all just green tree pythons.
So even guys like Eugene and Trooper, they were lucky to get what they got. The chondros I had, and I got some back recently from Eugene. They trace back to 1974 or 75. Dr. Van Meerop had a gravid female come in from Indonesia, and it laid eggs in a bag, and they incubated them, and they all hatched. So those are like the starter seeds from, Eugene and Trooper's, original, we'll call them designers, because they didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
And then later on, when I got stuff from Eugene in 2003, I noticed that one of the females I had a very strong attributes from Bioc, and another one had very strong attributes from Aru. So those to me were his basis. Then Trooper was getting the blue stuff. He must have had either something blue, either Uterensis, or maybe even I'm going to say Sarong, which is Pulcher. He must have had more of that blood prevalent in his bloodline, because he was making a lot more bluer stuff than Eugene. Eugene's was making the high yellow stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, and I have to come back to number two, is back then we didn't know. Now we know. Now we know where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We might not know the exact location, but I can tell the difference between a Uterensis and a Pulcher in a second. Mm-hmm. I can tell the difference between a Bioc and a Pulcher in a second. So it's like we already know what we're getting, what we have. And, I had a really nice high white Aru that I used to put photographs on my Instagram. People go nuts over these things.
Yeah.
So that should be a goal. It should be like, let's aim for high white Arus, Same with red baby Biocs. To me, the adult red baby Biocs have a lot more yellow on them than the yellow baby Biocs as adults.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not make the highest yellow Biocs you can? Like the Eugene stuff that I had. They looked like Biocs. They had big long heads and they were big snakes. They definitely had predominantly Bioc blood in them, Why can't you do that now with a pure Bioc?
Yeah.
It can be done.
Well, that's the thing. I think that it can obviously be done just with that effort. But I think that the temptation for a lot of people, especially newer people coming in,
Right.
is to take that Biak and immediately put it to something completely.
Man, that sounds like somebody I know. I just can't put my finger on it.
Like me with my Rubiak.
You're guilty of it.
I know. Well,
Like,
here's the thing, though.
Man, they do exactly the thing that I just did.
With this, okay. But in my defense, I tried. So this was an interesting story with this male. So that male is a really killer red neo, Biak, and I tried him with Biak females. I think 3 seasons in a row, and I thought this is he's just an absolute fucking dud because he would just. It's like he's really defensive to the point where he's actually kind of annoying to work with. Like he's one of the few ones where it's just like you're annoying enough that if you didn't look that good, I would consider moving you on. But you put him with a female, and it would just he'd immediately go to the ground, and in some cases, literally like find his way under the pad. Like he was like terrified of females for multiple seasons in a row, and I'm like, well, that here goes the amazing Biak that I could put with multiple females, and then he's not doing anything. So I didn't have any females ready to put him with this season. I'm like, well, let me just try him with the Aru because I'm already a sinner. I've already got that project going. Let's see how that goes. And to my surprise, he went straight 4. So I was like, well, now hopefully that'll kick him into gear and he'll go with female Biaks in the future. But if not, I guess that leaves me a hypocrite there.
There's also another appeal factor because I've seen a few Biak Arus F1s, that are really nice looking.
Yeah,
but I think those are the exception. It's not like every Biak Aru breeding you're going to make is going to make these spectacular, babies. So it's like some of them look like just a green snake. So it's like it's almost like gambling, and it's just like Pokemon cards. The Conjo crosses are a gamble. Like, am I going to get something good? But you're not going to know. You're going to keep it for 6 months.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned I realize now. I think it was probably a subconscious thing, but I've always been drawn, as far as any of the designers, the Aru Biaks is what I always kind of tended to like the most.
Cool,
and it may have just been, it may be a subconscious influence from seeing Eugene's snakes back in the day.
Yeah.
Because he had a lot of that kind of pixelated high yellow stuff that has that Aru Biak look. So
right.
It's funny how that works. You don't even process that until you realize later on.
Yeah, I've seen that guy James Opdale showed me a picture of an F1 Biak Aru. That's looked like a OS high yellow. It's pixelated yellow and green. So, but again, that's like one in 1,000 or 1 in 100. I don't know, whatever the numbers may be. Yeah. Well, to me, it's not worth the gamble.
That's one of the issues when it comes to these crosses is like the most extreme version across species is often pretty damn striking, but then you look at the bottom 50% of that clutch or litter and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to all these snakes? Extrapolate this forward. Like,
that's why I don't want to do a ton of breedings like that, because it's like, if I was like, you could with that male Biak, I mean, he's pretty badass. It would be tempting to just put him in every single female that he'd be willing to breed. Who knows if he'll breed again at this point? He was such a puss with the other seasons,
right.
but yeah, it's like, I don't want to just overproduce a ton of those crosses. So I've done one. I did one in 2020, and then I've done the one now, and we'll see how that project goes. But it is funny. It's like a guilty pleasure at this point, and I definitely feel a bit hypocritical with it. But at the same time, you know what I always come back to? It's like I think for me, one of the reasons I try not to get too precious and too much of a purist mentality is that like the idea or the argument that like they would never, these two animals would never ever under any circumstances come together and breed. It's like, well, that's kind of only true if you ignore the fact that we've done exactly that. Like if you take us out of the picture of nature, then they would never meet, they would obviously never come together, naturally without our help. But then that's exactly what we've done, is we've brought them together and made the impossible happen. So
yeah, like you can't get any further away from each other than a Biak and an Aru. I mean, they're like the furthest away from each other range wise, and species wise. It's like,
Without us, it would never happen.
Yeah, it's just not even close. So
it's like a half step removed from making a carpandro.
And
technically, isn't it basically just as bad?
It's almost the same thing.
And geographically speaking, there's definitely carpets in between the two.
I'm on the level of a carpandro breeder. Jesus.
Yeah,
it's making me sick.
And I've got another theory that I'm sticking with. I probably talked about this before, and I'll just go over it real quick. But you've got snakes that evolved on Biak and snakes that evolved in Aru, to me, a world away.
Yeah.
Separated by mountain ranges and oceans and everything. So the snakes from, let's say, we're just going to use those two as an example because you're talking about them. From Biak, evolved with certain bacteria and pathogens in their DNA and also viruses.
Mm-hmm.
They've evolved with it and they live with it and they're fine.
Yeah.
The Aru snakes, same thing. But when you mix those two, you're mixing that DNA, you're mixing those viruses, those pathogens, and those bacteria also.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it could be, a soup for destruction in a way. And I, I'm not positive of this. I'm not a vet, but I think sometimes when you hear of these guys who like say they lost a whole collection, or they had Nido, or they had some kind of virus and they don't know what it was, or I think that some of these crosses may be the key to the reason why some of these bacteria evolved to be, or viruses evolved to be real potent and devastating to some collections. So that's why I've always kept my localities with each other. I never mixed. I figured, why am I going to mix them up? It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah.
Just
where
a
you
theory.
at with that, Stephen?
It's just one of my theories. So I'm not saying.
I think you're right on it. I think it makes sense, and I mean, you'd hear stories about that seem to correlate with that kind of thinking. Like either with the ball python guys bringing in something, some other species into their collection, or bringing the ball pythons into an established carpet or chondro collection, and all of a sudden you got an outbreak and shit's going nuts.
Sure.
It would make sense that there's the lack of immunity would be potentially devastating in that kind of situation.
Well, and this came to my attention many years ago because I probably talked about this before too on maybe another podcast, but I keep koi. I have a koi garden in my yard, and for years I belonged to a koi club, and I've kept a closed koi pond, meaning all my fish came from one source. I never added any to it. Now you get these guys who join the koi club and they've got a lot of money and they want these big fancy koi. So they're buying koi from one guy, buying koi from another guy, buying koi from a guy in New Jersey, buying koi from a guy in Florida. And all those koi are coming either from Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, Israel is breeding koi. They're coming from all over the world. And you're mixing a soup of bacteria and disease and viruses in your pond. And I'll never forget it. One guy was, he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a pond with koi in it and had all these cool fish in it. And a friend gave him a fish from another pond, said, this is my, most treasured fish, gave it to him. And 2 weeks later, all the fish were dead. The whole pond was dead. And it turned out that all his fish were from Japan, and this one fish came from, I think, Taiwan. So it was like, that like a little light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, so my theory is right. It's like,
it certainly seems so, yeah.
Yeah, these animals, whether they're a fish or a reptile or a bird, they're living with bacteria, they're living with viruses, they're living with pathogens that they're fully immune to. They're fine with.
Yeah.
But you mix in a foreign one, and you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
even when we travel, same kind of thing. We travel to go somewhere else, and it's like
definitely a cold.
You'd be on your ass with an illness in 2 days, and everybody else that's living there is fine.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at nidovirus in particular, there are tons of unique strains, different species, and to my knowledge, oftentimes when you have a real devastation, it's because chondros got ball python nidovirus, or ball pythons got carpet python, or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like it would really check out.
Yeah, be interesting to see if it'd be interesting to see if there's some concrete scientific data on that at some point, some studies done, because it's I mean, you've heard about it for years. It certainly seems to be true. I mean, even anecdotally, as far back as the 90s, I remember hearing that kind of stuff. What was that?
No, I was going to ask if Patrick, if you're still in the chat here, if Scott has done any research as far as this particular topic is concerned. Patrick, I think he would definitely know.
Yeah, like proving that out.
The answer to that, yeah.
Like this was fine, and then this particular strain came in, and
yeah,
these carpet pythons had their strain. They're living with it. They're not showing symptoms. They're totally fine.
Right.
Then you introduce that to this species, and everything's wiped out.
So that is one of the reasons why I keep the localities pure. I mean, one of the main reasons, but it's like, and again, they look good on their own. Why are we going to mess with them? So,
yeah.
And I'm not knocking the designer stuff. I love the designer stuff. I mean, the calico stuff is incredible. The blue stuff I've been seeing is unbelievable. But, I would keep them to themselves. I would just keep them going. I wouldn't bother mixing. And I'm not knocking anybody. But I see ads, calico to, Biak, or calico to sarong. It's like, why bother? Breed it to something that's closely
Continue
related.
going that, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think once you outcross, it's like you're kind of starting all over again. And I know certain traits, like I know the calico is pretty potent, but I still would keep it within the family tree, just to see what I would get. You have far better odds of getting cool stuff out of it.
Yeah, being able to reproduce that.
But then how would you then try to balance that with then also some of the kind of degradation of like maybe the reproductive process, or people having trouble with designer babies that have been inbred? I have to imagine that's probably why they're doing it. And probably a twofold thing. One, try to get fix some of the problems, and also just sourcing a male and a female calico would probably be pretty damn expensive as well. So,
well, I did it in 2012, I think, or 2014. I forget the exact date. I bred one of my OS high yellow males to a wild caught female. She was probably Jayapura. It's so long ago, I don't even have too many pictures of her. But anyway, I did that just to outcross that OS line. I wanted to add some hybrid vigor in a way to it. Not that they weren't vigorous, but the females for me from that OS high yellow thing, they weren't very good breeders. Any of them, they would again scatter eggs or lay duds all the time, or they didn't lay eggs like my wild caught females would. Some of those wild caught females I had would lay eggs every year, no problem. So I wanted to get that back into my designer line. So,
what was the result of that?
Believe it or not, it wasn't very great. The snakes are just greenish looking snakes with a little bit of yellow on them. But I'm going to try. I got a pair back from a friend because he got a pair of those F1s. He bred them, so I got a pair of the F2s from him, and I'm gonna breed them and see what I get. I think once you get into F2s, then you might start popping stuff up. But again, it'll be a project where you got to keep everything and see what they turn out to be.
Yeah.
But was his process with breeding easier? Like, did the female scatter eggs? Like, did your theory pan out?
That F1 female incubated eggs.
Okay, so there's probably something to that then.
Yeah, it's kind of proof in a way.
Yeah. What I was wondering with that, so when you do the outcrossing with an animal like that's a either two or in some cases maybe three species cross, Do you try to focus then on like as best as you can, depending on what you have, as far as, you know, knowing the heritage of the animals? Just try to outcross to, like, say if it's primarily pulcher, then try to, you know, outcross to a pulcher animal to try to keep it as tight as possible? Or do you just say screw it and you know, do you think there's anything to that, like trying to aim for whatever it has already the most of in its bloodline?
Well, you know,
as far and to clarify that a little bit more, in terms of strength and like health rather than looks.
Yeah, well, again, there's no way of knowing with a lot of these hybrid designers of knowing the percentage of what's in it, you know, unless you know, is it RGI does a DNA panel on every locality, and then you can send them a shed, and they'll say this, they're like a dog. This snake is 20% uterensis, you know, 30% pulcher, and 38%, you know, azuria. You're not going to know exactly how much. So, like another plan I had with the OS stuff in the beginning was to breed them back into Beox to see if I can, you know, strengthen them that way too. And I did do a Beox breeding with them, but it didn't really do much. It just made green snakes. Again, it's like you're going backwards at some point, you know, especially when you go back into a wild caught animal. Depends on the potency of the designer you have that you start with. So it, you know, it's like I said, it's gambling, you know.
Yeah,
it's all it is. But why gamble when you can do the Aru to Aru, and you know you got all Arus?
Yeah.
You know?
Like I said, I plan on doing that pretty, you know, the majority of the time. I can't see myself going down, other than the Aru BI project that I've already started. I just don't see myself going down that route. And I mean, I guess you say never, but I don't see myself doing that with the emeralds at any point, you know, with crossing them.
And you know, the only reason why I have some knowledge on this is because, you know, Kenny, my apprentice, since he's 16, was talking about, you got to mix this, you got to mix that, you got to mix this. I'd be like, no. You know, me being the, you know,
it's funny with you two working together, like it's like totally opposite. I mean, but he likes the locality stuff too. It's not like he doesn't like it.
He and I are
similar. He's heavier on that side.
Yeah, like I love localities, but I respect and admire those designers, you know, that are from, you know, Eugene and Troopers and Maxwell's work. But again, Maxwell's stuff came from Trooper too. So it's like it all comes down to those it all comes down to that one wild caught snake that Dr. Van Meerop had in 1974. I forget the exact year. Mm-hmm. So those are the starter seeds of what happened later on. And again, everything after that was just fate, you know, people breeding things just to see what they would get, and, you know, all this cool stuff came of it. I have a lot of respect for that. Am I going to start my own project? No, I'm not, because think about it, that's 50 years ago, you know. So it took 50 years for these really nice results of captive breeding of those lines. So I'm going to stick with the wild caught lines that are far more predictable for me, you know.
Yeah. I assume that's the same thing with you with the scrubs. You got any hybrid scrub projects planned?
No, none at all. For a handful of reasons. I think first and foremost, though, man, just
we're not going to see the scrub my balls hybrid. Come on now.
Maybe just
scrub
that
my ball hybrid.
Scrub my ball.
But I mean, you know, obviously when you look at scrubs and compare them to chondros, the one major glaring difference is that you can't have a building full of 2x2x2s with a bunch of scrubs in them.
Right.
So, with all of the projects,
your holdback game's got to be a little different.
I mean, I have a rack to my left here of all holdback scrubs that are like, they can stay in that rack for like 6 months to a year at most, and they got to be elsewhere. But I just don't have enough space to do any sort of hybrid projects with all of the pure projects that I have going on. I mean, I have about 30 bar necks alone. So
Yeah, that's too much.
yeah, and you know, the ones that I've seen, I'm generally not that impressed with as far as just like the outcome. There's some extreme individuals that are very objectively nice, but then if you look at clutches as a whole, I just don't think it's worth it. And then, you know, the one hybrid that I always thought would be the one that would be like, all right, what if this would be amazing if it could look like what you'd want it to, would be the like a bar neck to a Moluccan. Like imagine a bar neck with Moluccan colors, and it's been done. It does not what happens. It's like kind of a brownish Moluccan.
Yeah, I was gonna say it muddies it up. It doesn't clean it up.
That's like in your mind, you think you can just like cherry pick like the best elements, and it's gonna just perfectly blend. But yeah,
and that's what a lot of people think when they think about hybrid projects is like, ooh, I want this characteristic from this and this characteristic from that. It's like, you know, you don't get to decide that. Like,
yeah, you find out what happens afterwards. That's the best you're getting.
Yeah, you know, and then like, I think if you look at scrubs objectively, the only locales that have any sort of real hybrid potential are all of the Southern Island clade individuals. So call it Moluccans, Tannenbars, Keys, Arus. They're all very similar looking, kind of like a spectrum of them. But I think anything that you could accomplish with any sort of hybridization, you could also accomplish with just being specific about pairings within the locality. So
and probably faster and better, you know, tighter results.
Right. Yeah. And you know, then you could also get into scenarios there where you lose the lineage at some point. People start misrepresenting animals, 2-3 sets of hands removed. And I just, you know, there's so much to do within scrub pythons. I just don't ever feel like there will be a need to, you know, I'm never going to run out of shit to do with them.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, I've done everything. I've beat the game of scrub pythons. Let's start crossing shit.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. So
no, I feel like a lot of snake species have that kind of potential when you dedicate yourself to it like that too. Like when you just you know, stay focused and try to go in as many.
Yeah,
I mean,
shoot,
that sounds kind of contradictory to say stay focused and then go in as many different directions as possible. But I think you know what I mean. Like
within the confines.
within the confines.
But like, you know, there's a ton to do with like emeralds alone, and you're working with like 3 colors, maybe 4 at best. Mm-hmm. You look at scrubs, and it's like all the colors. You know, that's just one of the things I like so much about them is, you know, you can like compare the localities of scrubs to green trees. There's probably 80% overlap in their range, 70% overlap. And from Aru to Biak within Chondros, maybe what you want to say, there's a 20% deviation in what the animals look like. They're still green, just with like the secondary color is different. Look at an Aru scrub and a Biak scrub, they're like 90% different from one. They don't share any of the same color tones, 0 pattern similarity. The only similarity is in body structure.
Yeah.
Like that to me is super cool. It's like the same snake more or less. And I mean, they look as different as like a Angolan python does to a green tree python. Couldn't be any more different. So,
you got so much to work with there.
Yeah, like there's just so much, and like
too much almost, really.
Well, that's why I continue to get rid of stuff that's not scrub pythons.
As far as like just the
you
know, putting it into perspective, as far as like, can you really achieve all the different phenotypes projects, you know, in a lifetime? Probably not.
I'm sure going to try. I got a lot of time left.
Well, that's what's fun about it. Yeah, you just try it.
I'm lucky I started early. I hatched my first scrubs when I was 19, so I got a little bit of a runway on myself.
You got an edge.
But yeah, that's why I've just continued to get rid of stuff that's not scrub pythons. So I look around and I'm like, would I rather sacrifice like this pair of holdbacks or this pair of some other species I work with? You know, if you're looking at animals one for one, it's like, to me, not a very hard debate. Not a hard dilemma in my head. So I'm like, well, all right, stick with the scrubs. So,
well, you know, Stephen and I talked about this a few times about how, you know, there's going to be a point in time where there won't be any of these animals coming out of the wild. And it's coming sooner than we think. And the only ones you're going to get are captive bred and born ones here in the country. So, you know, a guy like Steve and a guy like myself, we both literally created a veritable Noah's Ark of locality-specific animals. And if you don't do it, they'll be gone. They'll be lost to culture in herpetoculture forever, literally.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the more hybridization you're doing now, the worse it gets later. You know, my buddy Gus Renfro uses a term. You mix lemonade with Kool-Aid, you're never going to have Kool-Aid or lemonade ever again. You know, they're gone forever. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, keeping these lines pure and letting people understand the significance of it, to me, has always been really important. You know, it's something that you don't think about right now, the repercussions of it in the future. But, you know, since I've been doing this since I'm a kid, I've seen the repercussions. You know, I've seen what's happened with certain races of snakes, you know, that they were almost lost. So I've always felt it was like my responsibility to keep them going, you know. And when I met Steven a couple of years ago, I'm like, wow, this guy really knows what it takes to do this. And, you know, it's important.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that I'm at the point where there's very few wild caught. So I feel like I still need to like really shore up the like assurance colony aspect of it, which is super fortunate. So yeah, I think all of us scrub enthusiasts have a really cool opportunity to do something to correct some of the mistakes of the past, whether you want to look at boas, carpets, green trees, etc. You know, we have so much more information now than the greens, like what you're saying about, you know, Trooper and Eugene back in the 70s and the 80s. The information that we have 40 years later about these animals relative to what they did about those animals is still night and day different. That we have the opportunity to really go about this the correct way. And we see the examples of like the carpet pythons, for instance, like this, what hybridization did there. All of the problems that still linger within the carpet python community, you know, to where the cliche is somebody gets on one of the Facebook groups and says, "What is my carpet python?" And then they just get absolutely hammered by like 100 people in the comments. You know, it'd be awesome to be to the point where like there's never going to be a "What is my scrub python?" aside from like a legit like this is a wild caught scrub python. You know, I don't know localities, but like, you know, this thing that's obviously like a triple hybrid something or other. I just think it's and that was one of the things that early on really kind of seemed attracted to me about pursuing it as a project, is like it's kind of a blank canvas. Like, sure, people have been working with them for decades and they've been bred for a long time, but like nobody has really taken it and been like, all right, I'm gonna really do this to the level that people are doing it with boas, retics, etc. Hopefully grow a community around it. And I thought that was a cool opportunity, you know, not only work with the species I really enjoy, but like try to do it what I think, like what I would call the right way from the start, you know.
Same thing for me. For that was definitely a big appeal for the emeralds, is the fact that it was just like I mean, Ed, of course, has,
that's a different ball game altogether.
But it's a different, but like to pursue something similar with the northerns, you know, was a big draw for me. I wish northerns. It sucks that we don't get them in from very many places, you know. And there's you don't have that same kind of. You guys have the advantage with some of the other species where you've got different localities. You just don't, because I mean, you go on iNaturalist and there's so many cool looking ones. That's like, I want that, but
I know exactly
probably
how that
never
feels
happening. You know what I mean?
I know how that feels with my spilotes. Like you look at a tiger rat snake, one of the largest ranges of a snake on planet Earth, north to Tamaulipas, Mexico, all the way down to Argentina. And then east to west, once you get further up, like to Brazil, Peru, it's like, and we get what? Like Suriname, Nicaragua, and then like there are some Mexican animals that have floated in over time.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, there's
it's
so many
frustrating.
pools in Brazil.
I know, and it's like
Peru,
this,
in Venezuela, Colombia. It's like,
Yeah.
Costa Rica. It's like, God damn it.
same. And I hope so. It's like I think someday maybe, but the reality is, like Vin, you were saying earlier, it's like the door's probably either closed forever or, more than likely, closing. And yeah, that's definitely something I'm envious of. But I still emeralds are variable enough to where it's still cool. Like there's still a lot to work with. Just as like you said, that kind of blank slate start off as far as the canvas goes. And
100%.
but
Well, I know Rico was working on a high white northern emerald, and I don't know where.
yeah, the Ms. Willie line. They're still around. The Ms. Willie line's still around. That's like the one main bloodline that's still survived. Ed had his own as well, but somebody who acquired his northerns when he switched to just basins. Unfortunately, the majority of those animals got lost. I think it was an overheating situation or something, and that the person who got them from him. But yeah, there was those two, the Merino bloodline, and Tony Nicolai, I think, as well had some high white stuff. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah.
But so there was a few, it was starting, but then it's like everything when I think there was just kind of a shit storm of circumstances that wiped a lot of that out. But Europe has kept the Ms. Willie line stuff going pretty strong, and then there's been some kept going here as well.
The male that MJ has that produced his northern litter got all three of those in it. All three, Willie, Merino, Nicolai, all the lineages are involved in his pairing, that sires. So,
Yeah, I think those are the three. Right? Is there any other really northern? It's like long lasting northern.
No, shoot, I'd ask you. Not that I'm
not aware of any. At least here, maybe I'm not as familiar with everything that they have in Europe, but well, let me think. Glenn Bogue has been doing a lot of great work for a long time over there. He's got to have some of his own stuff, but I don't know where, what his. I think some of his animals, or a fair amount of them, were wild caughts originally. So I think he's probably got some sustained stuff. So there's things like that, but we don't really, have that over here.
Right. Over here, there.
Yeah. So it's mostly a blank slate. So I'm gonna do my best to contribute to it and hopefully, keep that going.
Yeah.
Waiting on this damn female. I thought this female was gonna go, but before the show and have that to talk about. She's
excited.
Kept me on. Yeah. I'm like on eggshells waiting. I thought she was gonna go today.
Eggshells are like embryonic sacs.
yeah. Walking around on sacks today. But I figured she was gonna go, and but no, she's keeping me waiting. So I think we're at day, what's today? The 157 POS.
Is this a repeat girl or a first time?
No, first time. Yeah, first time. So everything looks good with her. Everything's and all my best litters have been in the 150s and 160s. So I'm hoping for the best, but we'll see what she does. She looks like she's full of babies. So, but I hate those last few days where I'm like, I got up this morning. I told Ellen, I'm like, all right, she's going. You get it when I'm not able to look at her. You got to go check on her. Yeah. And then all day nothing. So I'm like, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Or maybe tonight. I've never had a night birth so far, but it's of course always possible.
Yeah, I remember
to keep checking the camera.
Talking about that. I'm in a similar time of year with all of my rattlesnakes and whatnot, but because of how weird and cryptic their ovulation is, it's like there's nothing to count.
You just basically have like
keep checking them
sometime within this month, maybe, or
it's like sometime in June, July, August, or September, you will get your litter.
Sometime this year, basically. Sometime
this general season of the year, you get something. I've had 3 so far, so it's been pretty cool to see.
Nice.
I usually leave the babies in until they have their first shed, just for fun more than anything. It's so cool to see the paternal behavior.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I'll have the males still in the enclosure as well, and like the males are just as protective and rounding the babies up as the moms are. It's really awesome. That's probably my most favorite aspect of keeping those snakes is watching the family dynamic for that first 10 days after birth.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that with northerns at some point. I want to try to set up a a situation where I've got a pair and watch what they do. Because, I've always been, with it being the first gen and trying to be as careful with, not, you don't want to spread any potential pathogens or anything. I'm trying to pull them, usually within an hour of them being delivered, or if not sooner. But at some point, I definitely want to try that and watch, because I know I've heard of different interesting behaviors that the females have exhibited. I've yet to see any eat any unfertilized eggs. I know that's something that they'll do. But then also, if there was any that are born still in the sac, if they'll exhibit that behavior of nudging them and trying to kind of get them moving, and then just seeing what they do in general. But I want to do that in a setup where I feel like I'd really get a better observation of what they're doing. I feel like you have to have a pretty large setup to really get a good idea of what they're doing, because in a smaller setup, I don't know, I feel like you could misinterpret behavior, just because I've seen some females that look like they don't want anything to do with the babies once they're born. They're just like, I'm out, peace, But that could just be because my stupid face is up in there messing with them, and who knows what's getting
big
them
primates staring at
exactly. It's like you got to take the big dumb ape factor out to see what they really are doing, I think. So
from a pathology standpoint, then would you do that with a pair you produced?
No, that's what I'd like to do when I experiment with that. Just take a captive pair, that you've got less concern with that, and then watch what they do in a nice large setup, either and I want to try something tall, like truly tall, 6 foot or higher, to see what they do. Although I'm nervous
unless she drops them from 6 feet in the air.
Well, but see, I'm curious to see what they do, because I don't really know, and I don't think anybody has really observed one delivering in the wild. I mean, it's theorized that they'll drop them down from at least a few feet high, and I know that's obviously happened in captivity, but I've also heard that they'll go deliver them right by the riverbank, pretty much in the plants in the river. So I don't know, I don't know exactly, and I've seen little bits of behavior, both in my own litters and then things that I've seen people post that definitely are like kind of piques your curiosity. I think it was what's his name? I can't think of his name. He had 2 litters, I think, that the female looked like she almost intentionally delivered them into the water bowl, with fairly deep water, and could have delivered them, had plenty of space to deliver them elsewhere, but chose 2 times, 2 different females chose to do that. Now, why exactly, I don't know. Is that a way to facilitate the birth, or was it just, who knows? I know what I've seen with mine is that the closest thing I've seen to what appears to be pretty deliberate behavior is them looking like they're aiming to, allow the baby to emerge and go straight onto some kind of perch or vine. It looks like that
makes sense.
Yeah, it looks like they're clearly aiming to do that rather than just dropping them. But then within the same litter, she'll also usually drop a couple of them, pretty much just splat, So, who knows?
Maybe we're giving them too much credit.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm always trying to figure that kind of thing out. Like, I'm always questioning what I'm seeing. Like, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing, or am I, putting attributes onto it? And that was actually one thing I wanted to ask you guys. I had it on my notes regarding defensive, protective behavior. I've seen emeralds. I've seen my one emerald male in particular, but I've seen both of them do it, where it looks like as the female is getting closer to ovulation, I've seen several different nights where it's like they're postured up where it looks like the male is protecting her. Like he is wrapped around her and like on guard, pointing.
I think he's keeping other males away.
So that's what you think it is, just
because boa constrictors do the same thing.
Yeah. So it's more of a territorial kind of thing than actually trying to protect her.
They think you're an intruding male.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my imperator and constrictor, when the female is getting close to ovulation and she's swelling up and they're constantly on her,
Mm-hmm.
You can't go in there and take him out with
Yeah.
your bare hands. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's
I've seen. I
gonna
finally
grab.
saw that behavior
Yeah.
change in a few
Yeah.
times where the male was where it's like both of my main males have usually been pretty tractable.
Right.
They're really not aggressive. But then
Right.
you go in there and they're swinging around and they're looking at me like, yo, get the fuck out.
You're an intruding male, whether you look like one or not.
Yeah.
And they're gonna challenge you because they want their DNA to be exchanged with that female. It's survival of the fittest, you know.
So you're seeing that. Yeah. You're thinking it's more of a just that territorial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stevie, do you see that with the scrubs? Have you seen anything like that?
No, not really. Since you mentioned it, I had one male this year that would just sat right on top of the nest box when the female was underneath, like right around the time when she was ovulating. And like he was just there. He just like didn't move, and I found that interesting because oftentimes, I'm peeking in, seeing if I can catch ovulation. I just kind of couldn't in this situation. I didn't want to move him.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I really can't say I've seen anything with any regularity, but maybe I just haven't paid enough attention.
I've never seen it with the chondros yet. I don't know if it's, but I also, it's such a small sample size really for me with the chondros. I've only, I don't know, 5 or 6 times I've bred them, I think.
Let me ask you guys this, as far as a male breeding observation goes, because I've seen this in almost 100% of the time with the scrubs, and others have as well. There's other python people have reported the same thing, but will your males go into a shed cycle like right after the female ovulates?
Most of the time, mine are usually will shed, basically really tightly in sync.
Okay.
Either to the day or within 1 or 2 days off of the peak ovulation swell. Not every single time, and it seems to be, from what I've seen with the emeralds, it's probably has to do with the fact that I've had the male going between multiple females. So when I've just done 1-to-1, I almost always see that. But when the males, going back and forth, then it's doesn't seem to happen.
Same.
But again, it's a still relatively small sample size because I've only done males to multiple females a few times now, so I haven't seen enough of it to know, really for sure if that's it.
Okay.
But it's what it seemed like. It seemed like if it's 1-to-1, it's almost always closely sync.
Gotcha.
But if not, more unpredictable. What were you going to say, Vin?
It's hormonal.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning once they stop breeding, once they stop attempting to breed, their testosterone levels must drop. The gonads aren't as swollen. So there's a hormonal change, and they most likely will go into a shed cycle from there.
Yeah. And so that would make sense because if I've got a male going between 2 females, he hasn't stopped yet, so he's not triggered to do that.
Exactly.
It's interesting how it's so tightly in sync, though, too. It's always been fascinating to me where it's like to the day.
Yeah.
But then I've noticed stuff, too, even seemingly unrelated to breeding, although I'd have to really go back and kind of analyze it further. But I've had a couple of occasions where I've noticed where a male will shed the exact same day for several years in a row, even not tied to whether he's breeding or not.
Well, there's another thing you guys should look at too, which a lot of people don't realize. When those males are in breeding mode, their tails look like they're engorged, meaning the hemipenes have a lot more blood in them, even though they're in the back of the tail, meaning they're not inverted yet; they're still in the tail. So, for example, male chondros, when they're in breeding mode, you could feel the hemipenes really easily in the base of the tail. When you pull from the anus towards the tip of the tail with your thumb on the top, thumb on the bottom, I should say, belly scales, towards right after the vent, towards the tip, you can feel engorged hemipenes in a mature male. But there'll be a time of year when he's not in breeding mode where you won't feel them. You won't feel them being engorged. So for me, that's always been an indicator that this is a male who's ready to breed. He's mature enough. He's hormonally ready to go,
Yeah. showing all the signs.
And boas,
Do you typically see that behavior change as well, where like you're seeing the cruising and all all the kind of usual stuff you'd see?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that makes
it
sense.
coincides with their seasonalities, And here's the hybridization thing that we were talking about too. For example, these snakes from these different ranges have different seasonalities. And if you have a hybrid, they kind of have. Here's a great analogy. People don't realize this. There's that book, Reproductive Husbandry of Pythons and Boas by Dick Ross and Jerry Marsack. That book came out in the 90s, early 90s sometime. If you look at that book, you'll see that they create a chart on all of the species of boas and pythons, and they all have a season, like a general season where they give birth. And the way they gauge it is they have like this line with like a bubble, like it opens and closes, and they show the bubble of the peaks of the births, and it's usually like for pythons, like for Burmese pythons, it was like, egg laying May, June, July, or something like that. The chondro page, there's egg laying in every month of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, based on their research of hundreds of people who have had, eggs hatched for them at that time, 1991 or 2, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I think
I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what attributes to that is a lot of those snakes back then, we didn't know where they were from. We had no idea one was a Biak, an Aru, a Maruki, or a Sarong. We knew nothing. So people would just happenstance breeding, mixing and matching, and getting eggs whenever the females, were ready to go. So it's like, if you look at it that way, the hybrids, so to speak, they may have a totally different breeding season than the dominant race that their family tree comes from,
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
again, trying to find a male who's ready to breed. If he's a hybrid, he may be ready. He may be like a summer breeder, and you're putting your snakes together in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting nothing every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. One well, kind of back to the hormonal changes and the chasing each other and stuff. Have you guys seen much as far as female snakes seeming to like actively pursue a male like once they've been paired up? Particularly like when you separate them for breeding, because I've seen this thing with emeralds. I've seen it enough now to where I feel like it seems like the females are just as eager as the males in some cases, where I'll separate them, feed them, or at least feed the female, and then that night or the next day or something, she's cruising like crazy along with him, and then put them together and it's like instant lock. Like the female seems like she's pursuing the male, the same way, and it seems to be, a behavior I've only noticed after they've actually been actively breeding. I don't remember seeing that like before I've paired that female up that year or anything like that. But I don't know if you guys have seen anything similar.
I've seen that in constrictor. I've seen it in like true red tails.
Where it's like the female's just as hyped up.
Yeah, definitely.
That's pretty. I thought it was pretty interesting to see that. I didn't expect to see that.
I can't say I've seen that. I've seen females be like ultra receptive, where a male will enter the enclosure and she just sits there and is just like fully like, all right, cool, it's happening. But I've never seen that behavior with a scrub python where she's actively pursuing a male.
Yeah, I mean, it looked basically just like the same kind of cruising that a male will do. It's relentless. I mean, that was what got me to pair them. That first time I saw that, I'm like, separated them out, fed them. I'm watching these two snakes just it's just like they're like these snakes want to be together. So I just put them together right away and boom, right straight off the bat. So and then I've seen that. I look for that now. Whenever they're actively paired, I'm like, they're in the mood.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Let's see what else I got.
Yeah. Do you have any other topics written down, or I could pivot if you don't have anything?
I got a bunch of stuff, but if you want to pivot to
No,
something, I've been blabbing.
Go for it.
Let me see what else we got here.
I guess during the interim, this might be it's a quick transition question that Steve left here in the comments. Do you guys think the Northerns will stop being imported anytime soon?
I don't know. I mean, that's been every year. It seems like the quota changes a little bit, and it's like the importers are always eager to make sales and kind of pushing that. Well, they're almost gone. They're almost gone. So I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll definitely be if it'll stop right away. It always could. That's for sure. I mean, it could. There could be next year none. Or very few.
Well, I know 2 years ago there was a severe drought down there where most of the stuff was coming out. I think some of it a lot of it came from Suriname. And from what I gather, the one or two major dealers, wholesalers that were sending stuff out of Suriname, took a big hit, meaning they couldn't find enough animals to fill their quotas, and their livelihoods depended on it. And from what I understand, there's not too many that had come out of there again. So
interesting.
Stuff like that happens. And what could happen, and I'm not saying it's going to, but what could happen is a guy like that could get to the point where it's just not worth it to even stay in business any longer, and he goes and gets a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that people don't realize. A lot of those guys down there, and same with Indo, is they get these quotas, the CITES quotas that they fill. And like Chris was saying, the CITES quotas change every year, and they're getting less and less and less every year.
Yeah.
What happens is those licenses to get those CITES quotas to export are only with the one person. They can't be transferred, from what I understand.
Oh.
It can be to a son, but they can't be transferred to anybody else. So a lot of these people, it happened in Indo too. These older guys are aging out, and their sons are into computers. They're not into collecting snakes and shipping them to the U.S.
Yeah.
Same thing in South America. So it's going. Again, I can't predict the future, but based on what I've seen for the last 35 years, I don't see it changing for the better. I see it getting harder and harder and harder, to the point where all it's going to take is one major wholesaler that sends, a few hundred emeralds every year out of Suriname to say, you know what, I'm too old now, I'm done. Well, my health is failing, I'm not doing this anymore. And my son doesn't give a shit about emeralds, It's over. And it could simply be that easy, fast, So, but we don't know. We don't know what the future holds. That's why we're all talking here, because, of all the people that I know in the industry, 3 guys right here, the only ones I really know, other than a few other that have been on the show, Steven, like Ryan Young, who really give a shit about keeping these wild bloodlines pure and going into the future. Because I don't see them. I think within 5 to 10 years we're done with getting stuff out of the wild. I really do. I just don't see it continuing.
It's been a continual, downward trend.
Yeah.
There's I can't think of. Now, I of course I haven't really kept up with everything, but I mean I can't think of anything that's coming in larger numbers now than it was in the 90s or early 2000s. I mean, is there anything?
Nothing. Like even ball pythons. That was a whole economy within the economy in Ghana, Africa. It was. Oh yeah. People were making tons of money collecting the eggs, hatching them, and sending thousands of them out at a time. The quotas were what, 100, 200,000, something like that.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember unbagging, bags of hundreds or thousands of them at a time. And I remember at the time it just seemed like, how the fuck is this sustainable? Like, especially when it was all the adult females coming in. I'm like, this can't be good long term.
Yeah.
This is too damn. It's too many. But
worked out.
But it changed obviously, and but now I don't know what the numbers are for ball pythons coming in, but it's obviously nowhere near what it used to be.
Fraction of what it was. And
yeah.
And
is that more demand based than quota based?
The demand is not there because look at all the byproducts of the breedings that are done here.
Yeah.
You know? So as time went on, the guys over there went out of business, literally. You know, the guys who were sending out field collectors, they literally went out of business because the demand was shortened so much. So, you know, that's a perfect example of what happened.
Yeah.
Now, will the demand dry up for chondros? Will the demand dry up for emeralds? No, it's not. But what's going to happen is they're just not going to be setting those quotas to what they were anymore, you know?
Sure. Well, let me ask this. So in an instance like what you mentioned, Vin, about, you know, drought comes through, they have a hard time collecting. Let's say that the quota is 50 and that exporter only sends out 20 that year because that's all they could get. Does that trigger the quota to lower to 20?
No.
Potentially kind of thing?
I don't think so, but what happens is it may have an effect on future quotas because they're seeing that less were found, you know?
Yeah.
It'll be a trickle down effect. It's not going to happen immediately.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what biology departments they have in their, you know, Fish and Wildlife Services down there. We don't know. You know?
Right.
We don't know how much effort they're putting into figuring out what's going on. But I mean, all it would take is, you know, a few biologists to go down there from like, you know, Texas A&E or something and say, hey, we went into this, you know, tributary looking for emeralds and we found none, you know, and write a paper about it. Then all of a sudden, that's basically what happened with Argentine boas back in the 80s. You know, they went down and they did some field studies and didn't find many. And they're like, oh, we have to make those CITES 1. And Argentine boas are Appendix 1.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not ever going to be shipped out of there again. So.
Yeah. Did monkey, different species, obviously, but are monkey-tailed skinks back? Are they Appendix 2 or are they still Appendix 1 now?
You know, I don't know.
Because I remember when they switched, I remember at the wholesaler I worked at back in the day, we had gotten a shipment in, and then they changed to Appendix 1, and the price literally you know, quadrupled overnight, and it was like, oh shit, we're never getting these in again. But then I remember, I felt like a few years ago I saw that they were importing them.
Yeah.
Again, so I don't know how often that flips back and forth, but
I think what happened was they weren't CITES, they weren't Appendix at all, and then they became Appendix 2. You know. So I don't know what the full study is on them, but yeah, I remember they were real common. You know, again, I remember Shinosaurus, those Chinese crocodile lizards, they call them, Shinosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing hundreds and hundreds of those coming. And now, they definitely don't come in. They're from China. And people who breed them get a lot of money for their babies. So, same with Kawara flavomarginata, the golden something box turtle, the gold thread box turtle, or the gold stripe box turtle. I remember my brother getting hundreds of those, you know, $5 a piece, whatever it was, I forget. I think they're a few $100s each now for captive-born babies. So.
Yeah. It's anybody who hasn't kind of been through that experience of watching something like that change.
Yeah.
You know, you can take it for granted that these things are going to be around.
Yeah.
You know? And the big thing is if nobody's breeding, then they're gone. I always still the one that Argentines is one I remember, but although I think Argentines were already not coming in by the time I was kind of paying attention to them, because that was what year did that happen with them? Was that 80s or 70s?
87.
80s. Yes, that was before me. But I remember the Savus.
Yeah,
those were cheap. If I remember correctly, I feel like bottomed out seeing those on tables at shows. It was like $50-$60 maybe. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
right. And they were everywhere, and it was like nobody was doing anything with them, and then I figured those were going to get hugely popular.
Try and find one now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a lot of them around, and they're
Yeah.
only from a little tiny island,
Steve confirmed for us the monkey tail skinks are in fact appendix 2.
They're two, yeah. And I think that's what happened with regular skinks too. They became appendix 2. Isn't that true? Like all the not Indonesian, Australian or Indonesian, I forget. Something happened with the skinks too. Oh, maybe the shinglebacks. I think they're appendix 2 now.
Or was that potentially the crackdown of import or export of Australian wildlife in the U.S.?
Yeah, because a lot of that stuff was coming into the U.S.
That alone killed the knobtail gecko market, because a lot of people here were breeding the hell out of those knobtails and sending them all to Asia and making big money.
Right.
And that got cut off overnight, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you got to rely on the U.S. to sell these?
Yeah.
Yikes. So you used to see like tables and tables full of them at Tinley. The big buyers from Japan and Korea would just come scoop up the whole table, and those guys were big balling on Saturday night. Not the case anymore.
No. Party's over.
Yeah, some of that shit goes that way. It's like, no more.
Yeah.
Let me see what else.
That must be a demoralizing feeling. Your cash cow just little piece of legislation occurs, and all of a sudden, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, like all the large constrictor people in Florida when that happened.
Seriously. Yeah.
I remember. I mean,
did Eugene still have a bunch of big stuff by then, like by 2012?
Oh, I don't remember. I think he had mostly already.
He was out by then.
Shifting out. He was seeing. I think he saw the writing on the wall probably way before.
Yeah, he was done with the big stuff by then.
Yeah,
he knew.
Yeah,
I knew. I was out of berms by 1990. Let's see, 96 or 97. I was out. I was like, what the hell am I doing with these things?
I find it interesting how berms never recovered from that, even though like retics trucked right through. Berms never recovered. I mean, right. Back when I was first getting into reptiles, 2009, like they were ball pythons, Burmese pythons. They were like the most popular pet python. And now, like, if you're at a reptile show, if you're at a Tinley or Pomona and you see one table with Burmese pythons, you're like, oh, I remember these.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it just do you think it's just purely like the association with the the Everglades situation where it's just like everybody's just scared off by that or something? Or because I don't. It is weird that there are just none.
For me, that it was over before that, but again, my brother and I had a reptile shop, and we would sell Burmese pythons, and then 6 months, a year later, they'd come back 6 to 10 feet long.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell are we going to do with all these giant Burmese pythons?
Yeah.
So then we figured out, let's stop selling these things. But there's one thing that people don't realize that happened in herpetoculture that created, to me, it almost created the captive breeding herpetoculture movement, meaning the albino Burmese python with Bob Clark.
That was
They don't realize what that did for herpetoculture. I mean,
it was huge.
That took guys like me breeding corn snakes and king snakes and tricolors, and now all of a sudden I'm breeding a snake that's worth $1,200, $1,500 a piece. Yeah. I wasn't getting that even for boas. If I bred boas when I was young, I was peddling in pet stores for $75, $100. So, but you got to look at it this way: that albino Burmese python put a huge injection of money into the captive breeding world. And I can't say I made tons of money, but I made enough money to fund all of my boa projects and chondro projects and dwarf or tick projects when I was young. So, I really have to, give it to Bob Clark, because he was the first guy to do it. He made us realize, Jesus, this is a moneymaker, not only it's a beautiful looking snake, it was a beautiful pet, but it was like you can breed these in a short amount of time and make some money with them. So, and again, this business isn't all about just the money part of it, but that injection of money into the captive breeding world just stemmed off everything else, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah.
Well, then let me ask you this as a follow-up. Was there an instant kind of as a maybe secondary to that where, okay, that was what, like the early 80s or so when that
was late 80s.
Late 80s?
Yeah.
Was there another animal that came in, maybe the pied ball python, or was there another one that was like boom, and the albino?
Albino ball python was huge.
Yeah,
I remember when those were new, and that was
the first one.
Those seemed like they went for 7,500 for quite a 7,500 a piece for quite a while.
Like where it sparked the next major cash infusion into the industry
was ball python.
But was it like a particular? Was there a particular ball python? Was it the albino that brought that on?
You know what happened? A bunch of things happened at once. So it was like everything aligned, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You had the albino the albino ball first, then the pied, then you had pastel ball. You know, the ghost ball.
Spider,
you had all these
clowns, all that stuff showing up.
Yeah, it was like every year something new would pop up, you know, and people were like, "What the hell is this?" You know, "Oh, what's that?" And before you knew it, became like a hunt, you know, an Easter egg hunt, so to speak. You go to a reptile show. I would go to Orlando, and just walk around looking for weird ball pythons. And I picked up a lot of weird stuff that came to fruition later on. My first het leucistics, even though I didn't know they were het leucistics, I bought at a show here in New York as a bush baby that was really yellow, and that was the first het leucistic. That was back in the 90s. In 2000 or 2001, I made the first leucistic with it, not knowing that they were going to be leucistics, you know.
Wow.
And that was the first leucistic ball. So that was like an injection into the ball python world. And it just went nuts after that. I mean, it went insane.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I remember being surprised because that was like I got out of keeping for a while around 2000. It was 2002, 2003. And I was just like, I still, you know, my friends were still keeping, but I wasn't personally keeping anything. So I'd kind of keep tabs. I'd still see their snakes and everything, but I wasn't paying as much attention to everything that was going on. But Barry Swope was, you know, he was already going down the road of breeding the different balls and getting into it. But by the time I came back in 2017, and even before that, really seeing what it had changed into, I'm just like, I did not expect that much to change in that relatively short period of time, because it was like they were still like, I didn't really know that many people that were really breeding them yet when I was getting out. It was like it was just kind of seemed like it was kicking in, where there were some people that were really, you know, starting up large collections and really cranking them out. And then to come in and see that it's just like, I remember there was albinos and pieds and ghosts and a couple things, and now you're telling me there's like 50 different combo names and all these wild ass shit. So yeah, it was an interesting time.
Here's the funny thing. I remember back in, let's say, early 90s, 91, 92, my brother and I got in, I think we had a shipment of 5,000 ball pythons. Now, we got one albino bull in that shipment, and we paid for it. It wasn't like it was a mistake, you know. Oh, we mixed one in. They knew what it was.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, out of those 5,000 ball pythons that were not cherry-picked, I mean, these guys sent us packs of ball pythons.
Yeah.
There wasn't one anomaly in there, meaning they were all normal ball pythons. I went through it with a fine-tooth comb looking for weird shit. I found nothing outstanding. And, you know, I have a theory about that, too. And the theory was, you know, back then, the ball pythons were coming out of mostly Ghana, maybe some from Togo, but mostly Ghana. Well, what happened is, as time went on and they gained popularity with all the weird shit coming in, again, they had quotas. Sometimes they would overfill the quotas, so they'd have to release stuff back in the wild. Another part of their quota system over there was if you took rabid females from the wild, you had to have them lay the eggs, hatch the eggs, and then release the females back in the wild. So my theory was that all of these snakes that were being moved around constantly started mixing genes. You know what I mean? So then we started seeing all the weird shit coming. I mean, I remember getting a shipment probably, let's see, maybe 10 years after that. So late 90s, you know. And, you know, yellow bellies, ghosts were in there, stuff that looked like Mojaves, just weird shit, you know, like, wow, these are different. These ones have stripes instead of, you know, the paisleys, you know, these have bands instead of the, you know, the offset patterns. So it's like, as the genes started mixing, all the weird shit started coming out. Again, it's my theory, just from seeing what I saw. You know, in the beginning, I didn't see anything different, nothing weird. You know, I kind of had an idea what I was looking for, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just cool that I was around for it.
Yeah, I bet those are really fun times.
Yeah.
I started getting interested in the ball python world when, like, around the time when, like, a triple gene combo was like, wow, okay. That was, like, big for a while and stuff like that. You know, recessive codom. Oh shit! Wow, look at that! Like pin pied. Whoa, Mojave pied. Oh wow! Like when that was really a thing. I can only imagine those early days being just so fun.
I remember Kevin McCurley walking around White Plains with a bumblebee ball, which is a pastel spider, and I was like, "What is that?" You know, like, that is the coolest thing I've seen in a while. So simple to make.
And now to think that spider balls have essentially been eliminated.
Yeah, nobody wants spiders anymore. They have the head wobble and
just. I mean, and you know, I mean, probably for the best, but what's interesting just like how long. Cause I remember even as early as 2008 or so, like it was acknowledged that these animals had the neuro. Everyone, it was a thing, but no one cared until like post COVID.
Right.
It's like, we're good, we're fine, we'll do it for 2 decades, and then all of a sudden everyone's we can't breed these, they have a disability. Like, oh, okay, sorry.
Right.
I don't know the full story with those. I don't remember. Were they getting like? Cause I'm trying to remember. Like, did they get increasingly worse later on? Were they getting like more fucked up, or were they just the same and it got more of a spotlight on it? I don't remember the full story with them.
That neurological disorder was attached to that spider gene, so you couldn't eliminate it. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better.
That's what I was curious. Yeah, was it actually getting worse, or was it just it
was just there?
Got more of a spotlight on it at some point.
I think what did it was 2 things. I remember, I did a lot of wholesaling of ball pythons back in the I guess early to mid 2000s. And I remember some of the wholesale guys that were buying from me. They were selling to PetSmart, Petco. Petco at one point said, "We're not buying anything with spider in it." And that kind of did it, because it was like guys that were making hundreds of balls were selling them to these guys that were selling the Petcos.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the Petco, didn't want them anymore. And that was a big chunk of their market. So that was number one. Number two, I know in England specifically, you couldn't even sell a spider ball python because it was inhumane. So it was like, that's all.
Was that?
Again, it was probably sometime in the 2015, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's crazy. But then, like, if you look at, jag carpets are still all over the place. Jag retics.
They got the same exact problem.
It's the same gene,
Yeah.
But no one seems to mind those. I don't know.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that whole thing sometimes can get pretty interesting. The ethical debate and the
Right.
way that people get selective with that. I had something. I don't even know if I want to really get into the topic of it, but I had a thing. I was curious what you guys thought of this. With the newer type of keepers and the kind of naturalistic and I guess ethical based keeping that you hear people talk about a lot. One of the things I've noticed is there's a tendency with that community to kind of, it almost seems like they'll have some spokespeople that have opinions on something, and then once one of those spokespeople has a change of heart or changes opinion on something, like it suddenly becomes okay within the community when it was previously like an ethical nightmare. And I there was an example. Again, I don't know if I want to really get into the drama of it, but there was an example I saw of somebody where they were previously talking about, you know, all the episodes I had seen this person on previous podcasts. They were talking about how like line breeding is unethical. Any kind of line breeding or inbreeding of reptiles, not ethical. Racks, unethical. And then later, I think it was within this year, the person had like a change of heart, like their own epiphany, where they like seemed to understand it all. And now it's like, oh, it's all good. It's all great. Line breeding's fine, and you know, hybridization is fine, and racks are fine to raise baby snakes in. And I just thought it was kind of interesting to where it's just like, you were kind of criticizing everybody who did that before as like unethical, like beyond just you didn't like it. You were saying they're unethical people, and now because you've decided you're okay with it now, it's like, oh, everything's fine for everybody else.
But, you know,
so that was kind of interesting.
I did a video about inbreeding on my Patreon, and I did it on my YouTube channel too, which I barely use, but anyway, it's there. And I basically discuss how there really is no such thing as inbreeding in specifically locality-specific reptiles, because they've evolved in a genetically isolated environment in which they're all related. And if there were any deleterious traits or genes, those were deleted thousands of years ago. So, you know, people ask me all the time, well, they used to say, hey, Vin, I want an unrelated pair of Korner boas. I'm like, it's impossible. The whole bloodline I have here started with just a pair, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like same with Korker K, one pair. Tara Hamara, one pair. You know, the North Brazil boas that I had from Eugene, one pair. That was it. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any inbreeding problems with them. I'm up to like F5, 6, 7. So, and if you went on the island, those snakes probably are identical genetically to the snakes that we have here in captivity. So, not even island types, just, you know, even Tara Hamara, genetically isolated in canyons or in, you know, sky forests. It doesn't matter. So, you know, the whole debate of inbreeding. Inbreeding is a problem when you're proliferating deleterious traits like albinism. That's a deleterious trait. There's a dysfunction to that trait that made that snake with no melanin. You know, same with some of the other traits out there. They're inheritable recessive genes that either popped up spontaneously, or the gene is floating around and it doesn't survive in the wild, so they don't proliferate as easily. So, but when you're combining all these traits and you're making all these snakes that have multiple genes in them, you're stacking up these, you know, deleterious traits sometimes, not every time. So you're just proliferating something, you know, like jungle boas. Jungle to jungle makes super jungle that they don't live long. Super motleys, they don't live long.
Mm-hmm. Are Morans the same way?
I don't know. I never worked with them, so I don't know how those work.
I think I've heard that they were, but
right.
I don't know if I've seen any of them.
And you know, these people with the large naturalistic enclosures, I have respect for that. That there's nothing wrong with I'd love to have a big naturalistic enclosure in my living room with chondros in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
It's great.
that's not so much of a problem. I mean, I've seen some hypocritical stuff with that, but you see that everywhere. It's not the big thing. It was more so I've some of the talk of line breeding and hybridization and rack use that I just thought it was just interesting when I saw that person go on a podcast later on after having previously seen them talk about it. I was just like, this is unethical and terrible, and anybody who's doing that is terrible. And then it was like they had a change of heart, and I almost want to be like, are you going to go on an apology tour? And
Well, I have a couple of friends that have the naturalistic enclosure mind, and they sport it on their social media too. That's all they have.
Yeah.
But secretly, I'm the only one that knows that. Yeah, they have racks in the back room too.
Oh yeah.
Because their collections get to the point where they can't put all those animals in these giant enclosures, and they start breeding them and having babies, and so they eventually have to get racks too. So it's like,
it'd be nice to just see people kind of come to a realization of these things just like there's times and places for these things to be used, and that when particularly raising neonates, I mean, what else are you going to realistically do?
Yeah.
I explain that often when I say to people who are buying $1,000 snake from me, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm going to put it in a 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot enclosure with naturalistic lights and plants," and I'm like, there's a little tiny baby that's eaten 5 times. It's going to get lost. It's not going to find the heat. It's not going to thermoregulate properly. And if it does find a meal, it's going to throw it up because it's not going to be hot enough to absorb it.
Yeah.
So I say to them, because then they'll say, "Oh, but so and so has it, and so does it, or this person does it." I'm like, they have more experience at it and they know what they're doing, they can get away with it. But if you're a beginner, you're not setting up this giant thing in your 70-degree house to have an emerald tree boa, or even a normal, blood boa or albino boa, whatever it may be, or even a Suriname boa. It's not going to happen. Put it in a rack for the first year or two. Let it get hardened off to the point where it's a solid animal. And then you can put it in a naturalistic enclosure.
It seems like it's maybe sometimes like a kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of what snakes in particular, like how they want to live. Like they're not generally looking to be out and about and exposed all the time. Like that's like the opposite of what they want. And I think sometimes people, they want to see that so badly that they kind of put those characteristics on them.
Right.
And it's not to say, of course, that you can't set them up. You can set up a snake if you're really doing your due diligence. You can set them up in a larger enclosure and still have success if you really are tight about it. But a lot of people, the reality is they're not.
Right.
They're not really doing it right. They'd be much better off setting the animal up in a tub setup to get it established first, get it going, and then move to that.
Yeah, like
once it's got a little size on it and it's got a little more confidence and everything else.
Yeah, like all the chondro crowd people, they're always pushing these little microclimate cubes, and those they're like big Cambro tubs that fit into those racks with lights in the back and heat. Start with the small ones and work your way up to the bigger ones. They got it right. It's like, a chondro is not going to do well in a baby chondro is not doing well in a giant fish tank. It's that simple. You need that microclimate where it's like nice and humid and warm. It's 85 degrees. It's warm. It's 100% humidity all the time. And, that's how you keep them. It's that simple,
And it's, I think maybe with some of the younger generation, maybe I always feel like there's a little bit of a misunderstanding where they seem to feel like the advent of using tubs was just purely about like a commerce thing, where it's just like, oh, just use tubs just to fit as many in as tiny of a space as possible. And it's like, no, I remember when people started like, you know, we started off in the larger, you know, terrariums and everything, and then a lot of people switched over to tubs because of the ability to provide that controlled environment that the animal then thrived better in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, the commercialization wasn't the tub exactly. It was the solid tub as opposed to the opaque tub.
Yeah.
Where it was so much cheaper to cast the solid color plastic than it was the clear plastic, that, you know, the manufacturers at the time came up with this whole thing about ball python breeding, where, you know, you can't breed the ball pythons in these clear tubs because they live in termite mounds and never see the sun. To sell their solid color tubs. We're like, okay, that's obviously a complete line of bullshit. But not the racks themselves. But yeah, the reason why we have our solid tubs is because they were just so much cheaper, and they did, you know, what was cheaper, a little marketing campaign or producing clear tubs? So
yeah. No, it's just interesting. It's like there's, you know, with that kind of the more blanket demonization of tubs across the board.
Yeah.
You know, I think it is a result of that, the solid colored racks.
Yeah.
You know,
on
a large scale.
I hate those for my.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them either, but it's weird how it's created that kind of demonization of the entire use of tubs across the board, where it's a little frustrating, because it's like it's a little one-sided to
but I mean,
to view it that way.
Clear tubs, and I think the best are the ones with the windows in the front. I like those a lot. That's what I'm looking at to my left here. I like the window tubs. They're pretty neat. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I like walking in a room and seeing the clear fronts, and you can see all the animals clearly.
I like having clear everything.
Yeah.
You don't have a single wall in that room.
Yeah, I don't have a single solid. Do I? I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any PVC cages. Like,
Unless you've added anything last time I was there.
No, everything's clear.
Glass or plastic.
Yeah, glass or plastic. I found it was like the opposite result of what a lot of people would expect, that they seem to chill out that way rather than being stressed out by it, because I think they get used to seeing me walking around and not causing them a problem.
Yeah,
and they eventually settle down, because I don't have, other than the one male biak, that's the one snake that, like, he's just, as soon as I'm near him, he's ready to strike.
You know it helps with that, because I've got a bunch of biaks too. Put a plant in their enclosure
to keep, so he
doesn't can't see me.
Yeah,
put it in the front.
He's such a visually triggered
as soon as they
snake.
see you, they get nuts. So
yeah,
I would put like a Dieffenbachia or it's got those big leaves. Put it right in the front, or put a pothos, hang it right in the front so he can't see through it. And that all the chondros I had that were mad all the time, as soon as I did that, they calmed down right away.
Yeah. I should do that for him, because he's the only one. All the others are chill. They just, even if they're not necessarily, like, they might get a little upset if you take them out or something, but they're not visually irritated by my presence. But that, I mean, he is just absolutely.
I had one. I had one a couple of years ago that was nuts. It was so bad that it really wouldn't eat, because you'd feed it, it would wrap it up mad, and as soon as it saw you, it would drop it.
Yeah.
It would drop a rat to bite you.
Yeah.
You know? So it was depleting. It was doing horribly. And I remember walking by the cage one day, and I had a plant sitting on the floor. I took the plant, opened the door of the cage, put the plant right in the front so it couldn't see me, closed the door, forgot about it for 2 weeks, fed it, it ate, no problem.
Yeah.
Just kept feeding it. As long as it couldn't see me through that plant, it felt camouflaged then. It felt like it was hidden, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting how some of them are just, so much more visually triggered and
especially
than others.
biaks.
Yeah, the biaks are funny, man. That male is like, he's like a jack in the box when his movements. Sometimes it's just like, it's like it's literally springs out of the off
throw
the perch.
Themselves off the perch.
Yeah, he just spring. Yeah, it's like, and that's a snake that I would be nervous to keep in a really tall enclosure, because I think he would flip right off and injure himself. You know what I mean? And I just he's that crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I'm fortunate to not have any animals like that in the collection currently, but I've had some face slammer scrubs in the past. I had this like one corner in my room that was like the corner of death, where just like there were just these 4 cages that were just in this corner, and they would feed off each other, and just get boom, 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 boom. It'd be a symphony of booms, and it's like, oh god
As soon as
damn it.
one starts in, they all have
Yeah.
to chime in.
Seriously, it was like, God,
Yeah.
you fuckers.
I had Moluccans years ago, and those are the snakes where if you think you're out of range, you're too
not.
close.
Yeah.
They come out like a spring, boom, boom, and come all the way back. You know, incredible strike range on those things. Especially
had
wild caught. You know.
Yeah.
I've had some moments with scrubs where like I get a close call and I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
I've gotten a little too comfortable where I'm like, I did not think you could quite get that close to me.
Right.
And you did. I'm like, all right. I got to remind myself every now and then how capable these animals really are.
The last retic I had was a tiger retic, and she was like that. It was one of the only snakes that I've had where I'm like, this is like I mean, not literally, but I remember joking. I'm like, I'm raising my own murderer.
Right.
With the snake. Like, she's looking at me, you know, she was like, I think about 8.5 feet when I got rid of her. And, but she just had that look where it's just like, it just looked like she was just waiting
your
for the
days are
opportunity.
numbered.
Yeah.
He was just sizing you up.
She was just never a trustworthy animal. Not really always super aggressive, but just hard to predict. Some of them are so smart, you know. I've even got a couple emeralds that are the juveniles that you can tell they're smarter than the other ones. They're better, or I mean, smarter is arguable, but they're at least better at like the element of surprise with their strikes, because I feel like I'm pretty damn good at. I really don't hardly ever get bit, but there's always that one or two every year that it's like, I think I'm reading them right, and then boom, you know what I mean? Just manages to nail you.
Yeah. With an already sneaky snake like an emerald, you definitely got to be reading those body language cues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, most of them are not too fast, but they hit hard when they do. So I've only taken a couple adult bites.
They got big
Nothing
teeth.
too bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really only one that I'm like, okay, I get the reputation now. That's enough.
Yeah, I feel like one would be enough
time.
to be like, all right.
It was enough. It was enough to where I'm like, it was a humbling experience where I'm like, all right,
had that experience.
No stupid
don't
moves
need to
anymore.
again.
Yeah, I've told the story before, so I won't retell it. But yeah, it was just a stupid move. But thankfully, no face shots. Those seems very unpleasant.
I took a singular tooth to the bridge of my nose from a scrub one time. I was not paying good attention, and guy was coming to me.
You
Just
know,
had one little hook in.
So I was like, oh,
yeah. I have. I used to have the boa vision boa tubs, 6 high, and pull out the drawers, and the ones that are eye level, pull them out and look in. And one time, I pulled one out to look in, and it was a female boa that was hungry, and it came out, and I felt like Steven. It was like it just grazed the top of my head, and I'm like, if that would have gotten an eyeball or something,
Yeah,
I might have been in trouble. So from that moment on, I never opened a tub looking in it. I always pull it out and then look from fall behind and look back in. So. Not that I'm thinking they're gonna grab me, but I just didn't want to. I don't like the element of surprise.
Yeah, when you're dealing with that feeding response too, it's just like, this is what it is.
When you're a commercial breeder, all of your snakes are in that feeding response the same time of year. So I try to tell people to keep.
You're dodging bullets left and right.
Yeah,
every
people
day,
that keep
man.
pet snakes. I'm like, if you give them, the proper seasonalities, you won't get them to that point. But when you're breeding snakes, the females are at a point where they're hungry.
Yeah, a hungry adult female boa at eye level doesn't sound like a fun time.
Yeah.
Chris, you got anything else on the docket?
I got more stuff. Let's see what else. Here's a random one. Do you think, Vin? I guess this is Vin because you got the experience. For snakes that are regularly, or maybe they're basically their whole life fed frozen thawed, do you think those snakes should be, at least once or twice a year be given live prey, just for their overall, benefit of their health for their gut biome?
Well, like I was
Or do you
talking
think
about
there's
earlier,
not much difference? I know we talked about before, kind of harden them off when they're young.
yeah.
But do you think that's something that's worth doing or not too beneficial, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like I was talking earlier about how snakes have bacteria, viruses, pathogens, all in their systems. I believe that it's the live prey that keeps that going. Keeps the gut biome proper, and I'm not saying feed them live all the time, but like you just brought up, for me, baby snakes have to eat live, pre-killed, freshly killed live prey items to get that gut load. To me, I mean, especially baby chondros.
Yeah.
Because in the wild, the baby chondros, baby boas, they're eating like lizards. They're eating things that are eating bugs.
Yeah.
The bugs are eating the earth. There's minerals passing through those prey items into the baby snake, and we need to duplicate that as best we can, and that's with to me, living bacteria. So all of my adult snakes eat frozen mice, rats, whatever it may be, but I also breed mice and rats. And all of the retired breeders I feed to my snakes, so they get a pre-killed, freshly killed rat or mouse at least a few times a year. It's not just once a year,
Yeah.
So yeah, I again, and I keep revealing this. This is just my opinion, my theories. They've worked for me for the last almost 40 years. So that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah, that's, to me, that makes sense, because I've thought about switching, because pretty much all my adults I feed exclusively frozen thawed, but I'm thinking like probably not a bad idea, at least now and then to throw them something that's fresh killed.
Yeah.
There was something else that I realized very recently, because I picked up some wild caught emeralds, and they'll eat mice, rats, chickens. It doesn't matter. They'll eat anything you toss at them, because they're opportunistic feeders. But I noticed when I was giving them, these are fresh wild caught. They're only a couple months out of the wild. If I give them a rat, they will puke up a hairball 4 to 7 days later. Even if I'm keeping them perfectly humid and hot spots. But I notice if I feed them a chick or a quail, they don't puke up the hairball. So it's like, I'm asking you, Chris, because you have these animals too, is their gut biome bird-based? You know what I mean? It's like, are they easier to digest for your solid animals you've had for years?
No, I basically don't. I don't think I've ever fed an adult. Maybe one wild caught one I did quail once, or a chick. But I've had good luck with just starting them on either frozen thawed or fresh killed rats, almost exclusively. So I've always stuck with that. I've tried scenting, and I've tried baby chicks for juveniles, and I've never had very much luck with it compared to chondros. So I don't know. I've heard some people have had better luck with them, with quail or chicks, but my experience has been they take solid, full size rodents right off the bat, with no issue.
Yeah, it's my theory that their gut biome can't handle rats to a certain extent, depending on what they were eating in the wild. Who knows? Because you can have an emerald tree boa that lived in an area where there was predominantly birds or even lizards. You can have an emerald that lives in an area that was predominantly rodents. So.
Yeah, I don't know. The majority of mine were Suriname imports. I've had a few Guyana.
Yeah, the ones I have are Suriname.
Yeah, So I don't know if there's much of a difference there in terms of
Yeah.
what they'd be exposed to or what they'd be feeding. I mean, it depends. I've had a couple that looked significantly different than the others as well. You know, in different shipments, to where it's just like, did this come from, you know, was this caught in a different area and then, you know, sent through the usual exporters? I don't know. I have
Right.
one animal.
Yeah.
that
Who knows
looks-
where it came from?
Yeah, I have the one animal in particular that just, it looks more like one of those you know, almost integrade looking animals. It's not as extreme as some of those, but it has, you know, kind of basin like qualities to it that was pretty interesting. But yeah, my experience, what I started doing with them was basically feeding full size meals, you know, first night or second night when I would get them, and you know, I've had really solid luck with those. I think I had one juvenile that wouldn't eat anything at all, and I tried assist feeding it a rat pink, and then the next day it was croaked. And I don't know. I still don't know if it was I don't know if it was the stress of trying to assist feed it or what happened.
Yeah, who knows? Or it could have been close to the end anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to say. And it was that one that was killer looking too. It had that huge head spots and really nice high white. So of course, one of the best ones that I.
Always the best.
Yeah.
It was like probably the nicest high white one that I got at the time. But yeah, I've had I kind of started taking the approach of like give them, you know, start treating them like they've already been here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, as far as the protocol. And I got most of them to eat first night or second night, doing basically that kind of, I've described it before, that like ninja technique of you know, setting them up, because I quarantined mine outside. So they're set up, you know, they were set up at the old house in a separate building, and they were in tubs, and I would basically, you know, open the latch to the tub ahead of time so that I didn't have to like disturb them too much when I went to feed them. And then I would have the lights out, use long ass tongs, like 36-inch, not even tongs, just those like, you know, plastic grabber tools.
Snake grabbers. Yeah.
Super warm, frozen thawed rodent, and then basically lift that lid, try my damnedest to not be seen at all. Because some of them, the minute they see me, game over. They're not eating. There's no way.
Yeah.
It's like what you described with that Biak. So, but as long as I could kind of sneak up on them and get them to take it, then I have success with that. And I always found like if they would take a meal like that in that first or second night, they would settle down so much faster than if I waited. If I waited, then they might start, you know, get into a habit of not feeding and then taking a while to come around.
Right.
But yeah, that I think that came from just working at the wholesaler back in the day and just always, you know, just trying to get stuff going right off the bat instead of waiting. Yeah, it's been a while. Thought about that. I was like, I get sometime. I mean, of course, I get tempted by seeing some of the nice wild emeralds that are out, but then it's been closed now. I haven't gotten any for 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, do I really want to go through the hassle of quarantine and all this shit again?
Yeah.
I don't
It's a lot of work.
Not right now. Yeah, and once I got through all that, I'm just like, do I really want to? You know, it's got to be an incredible one to be worth it at this point.
Like that yellow one that Ron St. Pierre had, the yellow one.
Yeah, like one of the pixels or something like that. Yeah, I saw there was one the main one that I regret passing on, which was not, it wasn't a pixel animal, but it's the highest yellow otherwise northern that I've ever seen. I should have taken a risk on that animal, but it was in shit shape. It was in terrible shape. It was like a nasty eye infection. It had like some external wounds. It looked like, you know, all the telltale signs of like, this one's not going to make it.
Right.
But I've not seen, the only other animal I've seen that reminded me of that was actually a basin that somebody, I can't remember who has that. Might have been I feel like the cage looked like one of Tom Widener's, but I don't know if it was or not. Maybe it was just a Habitat Systems cage. But it's a basin where there's about 85%, 80-90% of the white pattern has yellow in it.
Wow.
So it's like really, really crazy. I've seen pictures of that, and when I saw that basin, I'm like, I should have got that northern, because that's what that northern looked like. You know what I mean? Did I just am I still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of like the little.
It glitched out for a second. Okay, it seemed like it was kicked me out. But
It
yeah,
was just
it
like a-
reminded me of the way that Northern looked.
Hmm.
Am I froze again? Son of a bitch.
No.
You're good.
Oh, okay. It just looks funky on my end.
I'd be
Yeah,
curious if you had
that-
any. If you had pictures of that animal, I'd be curious to see it after the show.
The basin?
Or the Northern.
Yeah, I don't have a picture of the Northern, but I should have the picture of the basin. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It was a
Cool.
super cool looking snake, and I don't know what the status is on it. It looked like it was still pretty young,
Yeah.
but big blocky white pattern and just crazy amount of yellow.
Because there's,
Like,
you know,
damn.
I've seen obviously the basins, like the ones that had produces that has like a yellow, kind of like a lime green, yellowish wash to the green, but not
No,
the.
this is the
actual
pattern.
white.
This is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
yellow. It looks to be, to me, it looks like the yellow highlights that you have in Northerns and some basins, but just really extreme. And I don't know if it was a line bred thing or whatever. You know, I'm trying to do something similar to that with the animals that I have that have the yellow highlights, but it's not. This is like a really, really intense version of that. So it's a cool snake.
Nice.
And yeah, that Northern reminded me of that, to where it's like it's like I said, it's the one that got away. Where I'm like, shit, should have just taken the risk. And
Right.
but
Yeah.
I always say I don't think that one survived, because whoever would have gotten that, it would have shown it by now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that was probably, I think it was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago at this point.
Hmm.
But yeah. So let's see if I got any other. We're still down to keep going, or are we?
Vin, how are you feeling?
I'm fine.
You good? All right. Should we make an actual? Where are we at? 2 hours and 16
We got
minutes.
2:16.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 3:16
Are
already.
we
I'm like,
even in the
damn.
fucking half yet? Come on.
Let's see what else I got on the list here. Oh, here's something. So I don't think we talked about this last time. If so, we don't have to talk about it. But umbilical hernias in baby emeralds, and then just, I guess, boas in general. What's been your experience with that? You know, with both with emeralds and with boas across the board. And to be clear on that, I mean, like, you know, when it seems to be like a legitimate, you know, hernia where it's open, it's not closing on its own.
Yeah. My experience is they never close.
On their own, right?
Yeah, they never close on their own.
Yeah, you have to just you have to intervene.
Yeah, you'd either have to have it stitched up, or you know. But I've also noticed that I've had scenarios where the herniated umbilical was because there was too much, I guess, amniotic fluid in their bellies, and sometimes it would get hard, and then you're really in trouble, you know. So it was like twofold. It was like, if you had that, if it got hard, you're done.
Yeah.
Although
yeah.
I did have one snake once past that hard umbilical, like somehow somebody had passed it, you know,
Wow.
passed it out. But that it didn't live long after that. So to me, it's almost like a nail in the coffin in a way. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you think have you found anything that it's indicative of, like, is it a heat issue, like a developmental thing, or is it just a random
I think
genetic
it's
thing, or
lack of heat during
Lack of heat.
gestation
yeah?
with the females. And this is what happens too with gravid females. People don't realize this either. There's two things that happen with a gravid female. Either she can thermoregulate properly and cook all those babies evenly, or she can thermoregulate and cook them unevenly, meaning some of them cook better on one end than the other.
Yeah.
Because
I've
maybe the
seen
heat,
what looked to be that.
yeah, maybe the heat source is smaller, you know. Also, what happens is when those snakes are gestating towards the end of the gestation cycle, the babies start generating heat. So babies can be bunched up in one spot where there's an abundance of heat, or they could be in a spot where they're not getting enough heat. So that to me is always the case, because it's only one or two. It's not like the whole litter comes out that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I've wondered. What I was curious about is, was it something like that, and then also could it be a situation where, like, you know, because of the theory of like, you know, that when fertilization takes place, they might not all be the same size. That maybe some of the smaller ones, or that, you know, they didn't get as much nutrients during development, then they, you know, they've got that problem. But I remember when I looked into the umbilical hernia thing, it seemed like with dogs and cats that it was mostly thought to be a random genetic anomaly, but like there wasn't any clear thing. But of course, it's not this, doesn't mean it's the same thing with reptiles. But
Right.
I couldn't really find a whole lot of information when I looked into it before. So I'm always curious with people that work with boas of, you know, because I've it seems like everybody I've talked to that's with emeralds in particular has, you know, almost either with every litter or at least, you know, 1 out of every 2 litters or something, you'll get at least 1 or 2 of those like that. I think I've had in total, I've had 10 litters so far, and I want to say I've had 5 babies like that, 4 or 5. So, and it's been like, you know, a complete crapshoot as to whether they survive. No, like, nothing. Now there was a difference. I had the baby last year that had still had a huge unabsorbed yolk, and that I figured was a goner. I named it Yolk Hogan, and it's so that one. But that, like, I took a different approach with that one, and I let it sit. Like, I kept it bone dry, and just let it sit and, you know, fully absorb that, and then ligated at the end. And that went up naturally, and it survived. And it's like a little ass kicker. It eats great. It's like growing. It's doing perfect. This is the only one I've had success with that. The other ones, I think there was maybe 1 more that survived, but the other ones always, like, no matter what I tried to do, they'd maybe last a few days, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And I know Ed Marino said that he had similar, you know, it was like touch and go. That, you know, it's like a total crapshoot. He had good luck when he got a couple of them to the vet and stitched up in time.
Yeah, yeah, they can stitch.
But yeah, but that was it. But then I think Steve Volk said he's had success with a few of them doing medical staples, which was interesting.
Yeah, that'll work.
Suturing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just seems to be one of those things that you're going to get every now and again, and there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about it, you know.
Yeah, I would get them every year.
Yeah. All right, that was one of my little things there. Let's see what else I got on me list. I know I have more on another note. Oh, well, I guess just out of curiosity. So, are you guys are you doing anything naturalistic? Are you you know, experimenting with any enclosure setups that way at the moment? I know, Steven, you had some of your rattlesnakes that way, or
yeah, I keep all my rattlesnakes that way, and then my my spilotes, I keep them all that way too. Yeah. Do you like, what are your thoughts on that experience so far, like, compared to, you know, the more traditional? Yeah, no, I love it. It's so much better. You know, cleanup is easier.
You're doing bioactive with it?
No, not even. Just naturalistic. I mean, I still spot clean and everything, but you know, use a lot of substrate, and you know, so not only just taking the shit out, but a little bit of the bedding around it, and you know, it's better to look at. It's, you know, with the rattlesnakes, the way that I have it set up, I don't even need to remove them from the enclosures when I, you know, maintenance them. I would do it with the scrubs if it wasn't for the fact that they, you know, give a scrub python something to grab onto, and good luck getting it off that thing, especially if it's like a branch, anything cylindrical, you know. Yeah. So if I didn't have 50 something adults, would make it a different story, but just from a practicality standpoint, just like, would be pretty rough managing all those animals. But yeah, generally speaking, I anything, even when it just comes down to bedding, like I you know, I'll use natural bedding over paper every day of the week if I can. So
what substrate are you using for those?
Really across the board, I'm just using like a cypress and peat moss mixture. And then depending on the species, just keep it more dry, keep it more humid. Like I use it all, you know, all the rattlesnakes, all the pits, all the scrubs, everything. same
just
mixture.
adjusting it based on what they need as far as whether they're more arid or not. Yeah.
Essentially, the pitch oversize don't really spray them. And, maybe when they're in shed a little bit. It's really about it. But the bedding dries out, especially for me where I'm at. Like I'm in the desert, so everything dries out here. That's never really a concern. So
that makes it pretty easy for anything that you got that's arid. I mentioned, that's always nice.
Yeah, very easy. Honestly, actually, at times I almost have issues in my my rattlesnake room getting it dry enough. Ironically, I don't even know how that's possible, but yeah.
What are we talking like as far as like what they need with some of them?
I mean, I think generally speaking, as far as like ambient, just like general humidity, 20-30% probably ideal, and sometimes that room I can't get it below 50.
And do you start seeing problems with them at that? You start seeing issues with their...
No, I can't say I've seen any issues, but that's just not a lot of them
ideal for them.
Yeah, there's some of the Mexican species that are a little bit more subtropical will experience higher humidity like that. But like the calabri and like stuff like that, the US stuff, monsoon season, they'll experience it for like, isolated periods, and then the entire environment just dries up, or they can go find their, kind of little microclimates and whatnot. But as far as just like air humidity goes, it's really almost never that high.
Not even at no nighttime situation like that?
Rarely. Like around monsoon season would be about it. I mean, I walk out on my balcony and I'm in the environment, and if it's over 30% humidity here, it's humid here.
Yeah.
So
one probably feels like 95 for us.
there's like some mornings in like the fall where it'll be overcast in the morning, you walk outside and it's like 65 degrees, and it just rained over the last couple of days, and it's like 80% humidity. I'm like, where am I? What the fuck happened to the desert? Like, am I in Florida in the winter? Like, what the fuck's going on? So, yeah, very rarely does the humidity spike even overnight. Yeah. But snake's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know what I would do trying to. It would be weird to try to keep an arid species here.
Yeah, it would
have to be tripling up on the heat panels.
Yes, exactly. Dehumidifiers and heat panels, and
it's a cheap little dig.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, but too bad that most of the stuff I keep is humidity loving. So
yeah,
stuff like that. I got one of those big ass humidifiers that MJ uses in my garage for my adult scrubs. That thing works like a charm. So nice. That was it was $150 for a humidifier. Kind of sucked, but there'll be mornings I walk in there and it's 75% humidity. I'm like, damn, all right, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, to get to where you need to go. How often are you having to fill something like that? Like daily or?
Damn near, daily, every other day. I mean, it's a 6-gallon reservoir, and if I want to, it can eat through the whole thing in a day.
Yeah. Still, crazy. Getting the job done and only having to fill it once a day, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure. So can't complain about that at all. But yeah, the humidity definitely much easier where you guys are, where I'm from. But it is what it is. Not the end of the world. It can be managed. Where did that question even start? Naturalistic. Oh,
I was just curious if you guys were experimenting with it at all. I'm not.
Vin,
I'm not at the moment.
Vin, do you do anything like
at some point
of the sorts right now?
I have live plants with most of my snakes. I love pothos and monstera. It just if the plant is thriving and doing well, then I know the humidity is good. So
yeah. That's something I need to. I need to get off my ass at some point and incorporate live plants.
Same.
I mean,
but then I feel like I'd have to change the way I'm doing things a little bit because it might end up being too damn humid.
I don't think you can ever be too humid for emeralds.
Yeah, true.
I don't think you could. I rain those every day. But pothos is the easiest thing in the world to keep. You can
I've used those.
make cuttings and
cages
make.
before.
I'm constantly making new plants. I'm taking cuttings, putting them in the soil, and putting them in. I have rack systems that are empty, and I just put the potted cuttings in the rack systems because they're more humid.
To get them started.
I saw a couple people on Instagram that make alocasia and monstera cuttings, and they have them in they look just like snake racks,
Yeah.
But they
Same
put lights
concept.
in the backs. The only difference,
Yeah.
which you can do that in snake racks too. But so all my empty racks have cuttings in them, and I mist them down every couple of days, and they stay humid. And once they get big enough and they got roots, then I put little hangers on them, and I hang them in the cages with the snakes.
Cool.
Yeah, that's when I need to start. That's going to be my probably first foray into that stuff as far as more naturalistic setups. I got my phony plants for the moment. But all right, let's see what else we got here. I'm curious what you guys think about the kind of the future of the hobby as far as its impact, or how it's going to be impacted with tech, with everything from obviously AI is a big discussion, and but also stuff like the shed testing. Where do you think with shed testing we're at a point where we're a few years away from, like we were talking about earlier with even like the mixed chondros, the crosses, the ability to really easily find out the true origins of the animals, and what do you think that's going to do to, because there's been discussion of how this is going to impact the ball python hobby, or the ball python market, as far as the determining what the mutations are. But how do you think there's going to be much of an impact as far as the localities and keeping species pure? Do you think people are going to give a shit?
I think so. I mean, I give a shit. So it's like,
yeah, I think it's. I love the idea of it, but I just wonder.
You can have a shed test to know if you've got, a pure pearl island or a hog island or a corn island, or something that's genetically isolated to the point where they can find the genes in common. It's important just to know. But as far as the chondros, do people really want to know the percentage of each species that it's in there? I don't know if they care, because it's not going to be a determining factor as to what you can make with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, the chondro thing is all random.
Yeah.
That's why it got to this point. It was all random breedings to begin with. Eugene told me that because I asked him, did you breed like animals with like animals? He's like, no, we bred the complete opposite of each other to each other.
Probably in a lot of cases,
just what happens.
Yeah.
And just what's willing to breed.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, if this male's not breeding, do you have one that will?
I mean, that's one of the secrets to chondros. You need a lot of males, because the males are not always good breeders. They'll breed one season, then they might not breed the next season. It's happened to me many times.
Yeah, I've experienced that. Even in the relatively small number that I've done, I've absolutely seen that already.
Yeah.
I had a male, bred great, I think 2 years in a row, and then stopped. And then this male Biak didn't do anything for I think 3 seasons in a row.
And I've had males that didn't breed.
We'll see if he does it again.
Yeah, I've had males that didn't breed till like 7, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's like.
And you think that's just random, or do you think there's anything to that, like why some of them take that long, or it's just purely random?
I think it's random.
I guess to follow that up, were those males ones that maybe you didn't feed as heavy as like you feel like you could have fed them heavier to get them larger by that age, or were they not as good of feeders to start with, or anything that maybe would have a discernible impact, or just totally?
I noticed the males that eat more are worse breeders.
Worse breeders. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The males that eat seasonally were the best breeders.
Are
Males
you
that
talking?
just shut off, those were good breeders. The males that were looking for food, when you wanted to put them with females, they didn't breed.
And is this wild caught or captive bred across the board?
Most of the ones I have were wild caught that did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced that with scrub pythons with wild caught males, where some of them, like I've resexed males where I'm like, are you a fucking male? Because this male will be
Right.
probably 6, 7, maybe even 8 years old, no interest whatsoever. Where
Mhm.
the captive bred males seem to flip a switch around 3 or 4 pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Some of the wild caught males really took their sweet time with getting any interest in breeding whatsoever. Or like they wouldn't even do the tongue flicking, like they wouldn't show any interest. Not even that they wouldn't lock up with the female, they would just like
It
go
just,
in the
it
cage.
was like it's not even. Yeah.
Right. They didn't show any sort of like male behaviors around reproduction, period.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
That's how
even-
this male Biak was. And I had the same thing. I questioned whether it was actually a male. And I'm
Well,
like,
you gotta
I
keep in
know it's a
mind-
male, but you just start thinking like, well, I mean, what there's.
Yeah. No, shit,
It's like.
I've received missex snakes before. Why couldn't it be this one?
Yeah.
You also got to keep in mind that these wild caught animals, we really don't know how old they were. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Even if they were small, they could be 5-10 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You also have to look at it that they came from an environment where there was probably certain environmental cues to tell them that it was breeding season, and maybe we just didn't give them those cues
Mm-hmm.
in captivity, whether it be a rainy season, a dry season, a feeding season, high humidity, low humidity. You know, there's so many compensating factors that can be put into the equation to tell that snake, oh, this is the breeding season, you know. But if it's a captive bred and born animal, the cues you're giving it will be predictable because you've done it.
You've conditioned it from
Yeah,
birth.
you've conditioned it how many seasons in a row for that.
That's one thing too. And when I say something like this, I don't know if I necessarily mean it to sound like it's like a criticism of the newer generation of keepers, but I feel like sometimes there may be a lack of understanding that we do condition the animals by how we set them up. So like you'll see like people will see certain behaviors for the first time and maybe they're shocked by them, but it's just like sometimes I'm like, oh, I mean, it's you've conditioned it to never experience that before, so it's it's gonna seem like a big deal to you, but in reality it's just a snake being a snake. Like
Yeah.
I saw an example the other day of somebody that it's like their snake got exposed to natural sunlight. And it was like it went over the it like now is going towards that sunlight and exhibiting basking behaviors, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean that's what it's a snake, that's what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
It never had it before, so you didn't see that behavior. Now you're conditioning it, you're providing that, so you're seeing that kind of behavior from it. But I feel like I see a lot of stuff. I think it's more of a social media thing where I'll see posts and I feel like an old prick about it because there's so many things that I see that I'm just like, yeah, it's a snake doing snake things.
Right.
Like, that's kind of what you see when you expose them to different things. But anyways, I don't know. That was just something that I thought was interesting. Like we condition them not to our rooms. We condition them to our feeding habits.
Yeah.
How we present the prey to them. They're smart. They learn and they start responding or not responding to what you're doing.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why animals that you raise in your collection breed better than animals that you didn't raise in your collection.
Yeah.
Particularly if you produce them. There's
Mm-hmm.
like this is what captivity is. This is how dogs became dogs from wolves. Like just because it's a reptile doesn't mean the same principles don't apply.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Humans want to anthropomorphize their animals. It's like they want to make everything that the animal is doing. They want to compare it to what we do. It's like the animal's all alone. It needs a friend, or it needs a giant enclosure. It needs to run and be free. It's like they're trying to give it human-like, capabilities, abilities, and it just doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah, and it's something that, again, I don't want to. I mean, I probably do sound like I'm coming across like a bit of a prick on this, but some of that stuff I feel like I always just want to. It's like, why can't you just allow the animal to be what it is,
Right.
rather than insisting on it having, traits or behaviors or, emotions that are, just like yours. It's like, why does it have to be? Why isn't it enough for it to be what it is? It doesn't have to be the same kind of a creature that you are. It doesn't have to behave the same way that you are. To be appreciated. I don't know. I always find that a little bit weird, but I get it. I get it too, especially depending on how much experience you have with the animals and what you're used to. That you have that tendency to want to, put those human traits onto them, put those qualities. But it's definitely a little frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to people. People want the animals to live in their image of the animal. It's like, I guess, I mean, people do it with their dogs and shit all the time, but like, the further away you get from domesticated animals, it's like, if you're interested in fish or reptiles or birds or whatever, what's so wrong with what the animal is, and observing and learning from the animal in its natural behaviors and even its non-natural behaviors with you, like, but in terms of what that animal is, not what you want it to be. It's, I don't know, and I guess it's probably a natural reaction as well, but at certain points, like, if you're not a child anymore or whatever, it's like you got to understand what's going on here with this animal. You'd hope so, at least people would understand that, like, a snake brain is not the same as a human brain, and they will behave differently and live differently than we will, and that's okay. Like, that's what makes it cool. Except they're not just us.
That's the part that I think is always weird. Is I'm like, that them being different, like, that's what's cool. That's one of the main things about that's so cool about them, is that they're different.
Like, they like don't
unique.
Have legs and stuff.
Yeah, and they just
or
behave
eyelids.
completely different. Yeah, it's like I don't really. I mean, shit. If they were exactly like humans, I'd get rid of them. Right? I mean, maybe I'm just that too antisocial, but if they were exactly like human beings, I would never want a bunch of them around.
One of my daughter's friends wanted a corn snake, so I got her a corn snake, and she loves it. She's got it set up in her room, and she showed me a picture of it set up. There was like a little tire swing in there. Like, what is a tire swing for a corn snake? Like, oh, I saw it on TikTok, and this girl had a corn snake, and it uses the tire swing, and she shows me a video of a corn snake swing, and I'm like, somebody made that up. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They put the corn snake on a little swing and then pushed it, and they did a TikTok video, and you thought it was great. Now you bought the tire for $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Like, if
the video was selling the tire swings.
Yeah. I'm like, it's cute, it's funny, but if
Go
you
to the
want
link
to
in my bio.
be happy, then put a rock in there, maybe a plant.
Yeah, or if you're gonna put a tire in there, put the tire on the floor of the enclosure so it can just go do what it really wants to do, which is just hide inside of the tire. Right. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting time, like, and I'm sure we can all relate to it because we've all been doing this for a while. Like, there's definitely periods of times where I feel like I don't know what the hell's going on here. I try not to be too judgmental, but I see certain things that it's confusing because it seems like it's there's such a focus on wanting the animals to be something other than they are. That, at least that's the way I see it. It's like, even down to I've noticed something with the setup of cages, and generally it applies more to the naturalistic cage concepts, is I've always feel like you hear a lot of talk about, or a lot of focus on rather, like some element of the cage that's like, well, maybe it might want to do this once in a while. So I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that it has this theoretical once a year thing it might do. But then I see some of these setups and I'm like, but you're missing the bigger picture. Like, you're not setting it up the way that it wants to feel and behave 98% of the time. Why the focus on the 1 or 2%? Like, you know, the fact that it might want to do a backflip once a year. It's, you know,
like if that
most of the time it doesn't want to do that. Most of the time it wants to be secure and feel like a, you know, like a snake.
If whatever you're doing, like extra special shit, doesn't take away from that 98%,
sure,
whatever, sure. But yeah, but if you're compromising the actual needs of that animal because you think it wants to do whatever, it's like now you've taken it a little too far.
Yeah. That, you know, well, it's, I would say that, and then also the kind of focusing on like, well, if, you know, if it can't do the backflip once a year, then, you know, it's an unhappy animal or something like that. And I feel like that gets a little weird sometimes where it's like, I'm pretty sure that, you know, it would be okay.
You know what it all boils down to? The people that are, you know, rallying for these naturalistic enclosures, the large enclosures, you know, don't confine your snakes, don't be a rack system factory. They are looking at commercial reptile breeders like puppy mills were looked at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's
which is understandable where they're coming from.
I was just gonna say there's understanding to that.
There have been some.
I've been to breeding facilities that were a fucking mess. And like, I remember going to one and saying to myself, the guy knew I was coming here. You know, it wasn't like I walked in unexpectedly and this place is a fucking dump, you know? So, but what I'm getting at is what's happening now is this business is going towards the boutique breeders, you know, guys like ourselves that aren't. I was a factory at one point in my career, but I haven't done that in a while. But
you still were not. It wasn't like you always ran a
thousands.
Yeah, it was a clean ship. Even when Kenny would be at my place, and I remember him going to other facilities and saying, "Vin, these guys keep nothing as clean as you, nothing." You know, I'm like, but I say to him, "You can't compare to me because I'm the complete opposite." You know, so. What I'm getting at is, if I'm going to buy a dog, I'm buying it from a breeder that has a pair of German Shepherds or a pair of Corgis or 2 females and a male. You know what I mean? And they're meticulously caring for them in their backyard and their family pets. You know, it's no different than people who want to buy snakes. They want to buy from somebody they know that they're taking care of them properly and that the animals are healthy. You know.
Yeah.
So, but it's that fine line. It's like we're juggling, trying to show, I'm a commercial breeder and I do use some racks, but it's like, but I also know what I'm doing. And these snakes are really outwardly healthy and nobody's confined and nobody's like restricted, I should say. Nobody's neglected. So it's hard to get that point across because we've been shoehorned into that category. Or you're dirty rack people, you know, you're lowly peasants, you know, you're in the puppy mill, you know, category, so to speak. So, but in our business, it's very hard to articulate that. No, there's people that know what they're doing, and keep things, you know. I mean, look at Steven's stuff behind him. It's like crystal clear cages, and everybody's got nice enclosures, and they're all well fed and watered. We're talking about humidity. I mean, we're trying to keep the humidity exactly the way they like it in the wild, you know. And to me, it's an oxymoron in a way to say I keep my snakes in these naturalistic, enclosures in the middle of my living room that's 70 degrees. You're not duplicating the rainforest in the middle of your living room in a giant fish tank. You're just not, unless it's in a room or a greenhouse that's kept at 84 degrees and 75% humidity. You're not duplicating that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like that, I've talked about that before. I think one of the reasons why, and I get, not, you can't always do this. It's not like a criticism to try to say, oh, you can't keep a species if you can only keep it in your living room, in a terrarium. But there's such an obvious difference in the animal's comfort level, behavior, general health and well-being, and then that leads to breeding, when their ambient conditions are as close as possible to what they would experience in the wild.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that means being uncomfortable in the room that you're keeping them in half the time. I mean,
right. And that's what I tell people. It's like the reptile room I create for myself is a rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
And all these snakes are in enclosures within the rainforest
mm-hmm.
that I've created. You have to be an engineer in our industry. You're engineering your room to be, well, Chris and I are making the rainforest. Steven's trying to make a desert for his rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're engineering a room in your house or a building on your property that recreates those temperatures. And that's why I say to these people that want to do the naturalistic enclosures, I'm like, that's pretty difficult to do. Now, there's lots of people that demonstrate the ability to do so by creating a microclimate within their microclimate, which is difficult because it takes a lot of engineering, but they do it.
Yeah.
The average kid getting into snakes today who wants to be the naturalistic enclosure, guru or advocate, it's hard to do as a beginner, really, especially if you're doing it in your house.
It's a recipe for failure.
It really
a
is.
lot of times.
I tell people, you're setting yourself up for failure at first,
Yeah, it's weird how that works. I think. I mean, with that kind of general movement, I feel like it's all coming from good intentions. It's not like they're wanting to set the snakes up badly. Or wanting to do anything wrong, but I think that there's some misunderstandings with some of those things where it's like, okay, but I even think of it with emeralds, and it might just be me, but I hear a lot of talk with like naturalistic setups for emeralds and giving them, a range where it's like 70 degrees during the day on one end, and to me that I'm just like that snake's not comfortable at 70 degrees. I mean that's just not the way that they live.
You can get a weather app on your phone and pull up Suriname,
mm-hmm.
And say what temperature is it there? It's like it'll say range between 78 and 88.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's ambient. That's not even factoring in what the sun is doing in the spot that they're in at any given time of the day.
Right.
Which itself fluctuates. The sun's not going to be, as intense the entirety of the day, what I mean? So yeah, it's some of that stuff I get that, like, they're gonna be able to find shade and they're gonna be able to find a cooler spot than the most intense heat, but they're generally gonna be much more comfortable at at least upper 70s during the day. If
like
not,
I keep on my phone some localities of chondros like Sarong, Jayapura. So Sarong right now, it's the daytime there because they're 12 hours ahead. It's 87 degrees, and last night it was 77.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're going to duplicate that in your house, meaning you have a room that's the coldest it gets is 77, 78 at night, and there's a hot spot of 87 in the day, that's how you got to keep them, and they got to be humid.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Yeah, as close to that as possible, and that's where I've seen that talk a lot, like with the thermoregulation discussion. It's like, well, they need to have this entire theoretical range, and I'm like, I don't know, man. And especially after the way they've been keeping them with using natural sunlight, I'm like, they have access to real sun, and they're not choosing to do this stuff.
Right.
So they can literally go bask in the sunlight that's coming through the window, which I'm sorry, but that's got to be more natural than any of the best lighting that's available right now. No knock on any of that. and they're, you know, I'm seeing behavior like consistently where it's like they're not looking to shift around all day, you know, and put themselves in at risk or at that vulnerability.
They sit on a perch and they move inches
Yeah.
left and right. I mean,
Yeah, they just kind of they
Yeah.
resituate themselves, and that's about it. So they're experiencing whatever they're subjected to throughout the course of that day, and it's pretty much warm or warmer. You know what I mean?
And people don't realize that they can conserve heat too,
Mhm.
meaning they can absorb heat
Mhm.
and they can hold on to it.
Yeah.
Even overnight. So even if it's 76 degrees at night, their body temperature could be 83, 84.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see.
That's a
them do
big
that.
thing people don't give the snakes credit for.
Yeah.
I think it probably also results in people keeping the snakes way too hot as well.
Mhm.
You know, whatever the temperature in the room is going to be the exact body temperature of that animal. And it's like, well, can't let this room get below 82 or whatever, or the cage get below 82, and all of a sudden, like, the snake is in a state of like 85 to 90 degree body temperature just constantly. It's kind of all revved up. Like,
And
Yeah, I
pythons are better at it than boas. Pythons can serve heat far better than boas.
Mm.
Probably because they are old world, I guess you'd call them. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Pythons. And they're probably older evolutionary wise. You know, they've adapted to conserve heat better, pythons. I mean, I think about a gestating female python who's gestating around eggs, who's incubating eggs. They raise their temperature almost 10 degrees from the air temperature.
Yeah.
A boa can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild though, when I had success with the maternal with a Biak female, and I was able to check regularly. I was shocked. It was just like, man, there was a couple nights where it was about 8 to 9 degrees warmer that she was getting those eggs up to than what the air temperature in the cage was.
I have a video on my Instagram of me with a temperature gun on a Aru on eggs. I go in the enclosure, I show the camera to the thermometer. In the enclosure, it says 78. I go to the snake's incubation box, open it up, put a temperature gun on her. She's 88.
wow.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's super impressive. Yeah, these snakes are they're a lot more capable than we all give them credit for.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Just give me 1 second. Hey babe, could you go check on her? Just take a look. I don't see anything on the camera. Sorry, I'm just she's slogging away to go. I feel bad. I've been having her on duty when like, go check on the snake.
think
See
you're
if she's
gonna
dropping
miss
babies. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't. Yeah, I like catching the whole thing. I'm like, especially because I want to see if there's a night birth, if there's really any like change in behavior from what I've seen with the morning and early afternoon births. I don't imagine there'll be anything too different, but I'm just curious to see it. And I'm just anxious. I want to see what the results are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, too bad she couldn't have dropped her litter before the episode, but you know, can't always make these snakes do what we want them to. So
no. And I wouldn't want to, you know, try to force anything either.
just go in there and just kind of squeeze her like a tube of toothpaste, just like
nope.
right above the massive babies.
And no blasting with water or anything either.
Is that what people do? Try to induce their emerald?
I've heard some people.
Yeah,
people have messaged me. They're like, when I've had ones that are they're like, oh, just you know, spray the shit out of her and try to, you know, get her to get it moving. But I'm just, to me, it's like
scare the baby.
They're gonna go when they're gonna go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd much rather them go whenever they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Than I mean, you know, I'm sure it's the same thing with eggs, but I feel like it's even more crucial with the boas that the last thing you want to do is get them to go prematurely.
Yeah. That's silly.
Yeah, it's like maybe they'll come out sooner, but they're all going to be, you know, dragging huge yolk sacs and nightmares to get. So, you know, why would I want that? But
not at all. Not at all. Well, Chris, do you have any other topics on your agenda you want to hit? I know we're burning the midnight oil over there on the East Coast officially, so
Oh yeah, we're about
we
to
want
cross
to keep
that.
you guys forever.
Well, I mean, we started to talk about the shed testing thing as far as tech.
Oh yeah, we kind of weaved around.
Yeah, we kind of came back around. I mean, I know one thing I don't know that much about that I've heard you talk a little bit about on previous podcasts before, Vin, is the CRISPR technology and what that has. You know, is there a role that that's going to play in the future of snake breeding and or you know the industry, or where do you see that going?
It might. It might. I mean, you know, like those glowfish. I don't see why a glow snake can't be created. You know, it's like transgenic, the splicing genes. And
Yeah.
something
I
could
know
happen.
very little about it, so I don't know
Yeah.
what's the state of that as far as, you know, is that being used regularly in the fish industry?
Oh yeah, with fish.
So
Yeah,
it's I have so little knowledge of
I
it.
know
I didn't know.
Seagrass Farms has the, I guess, licensing to it, or patent. I don't know if you can patent it or not. Something will happen in the future. The only problem is, you know, fish are easier because you've got a sperm and an egg that are exposed. You know, a fish has to lay an egg on a plant or on a rock, and the sperm is swimming through the water to get to the egg.
True,
So
yeah.
it's a little easier to do. In a snake, it's got to be done internally. So, you know, something's going to happen eventually. I don't know.
Maybe they'll start with the frogs.
Yeah, they did it with the Xenopus, the African clawed frogs. They make those glow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah, they
already
do.
been done. Damn.
Yeah, they already did it with them. So, there's things going on. I don't know.
Like a rainbow dart frog.
A what?
Like a rainbow dart frog.
You could take an albino dart frog and make it a glow, and it could be, you know. Most of the glowfish things are lighter animals, lighter fish that really glow. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're dealing with internal mechanisms. You know, the sperm meeting the egg at a specific time and taking the genetic material and getting it into the sperm. Again, it's all CRISPR technology. It's all transgenic, you know, gene splicing. There's a lot. For all we know, they're doing it in China already. We don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
They're doing it in China.
Yeah.
They're making the snakes glow. Our snakes don't glow. All the snakes glow. They're beating us.
What are your all right? So then, keeping on the tech talk stuff. So, what are your thoughts on like how AI is already impacting learning about and kind of, you know, the dissemination of information about various reptile species? Where do you think that's going in a good direction, neutral, bad?
No, it's a bad direction. I'll tell you why. Even like Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kids are putting, you know, how to take care of my boa, and it's all bullshit because it's just extrapolating what's already online, the bad information that's already online, and it's just regurgitating it even worse. So,
and straight up hallucinating some stuff too.
Yeah,
I think that's what's been shocking for me to see with people is the you know, I see a lot of people that are basically just have immediately, because, you know, Google basically shifted from a search company to now they're an AI forward company. So like Google search is not really Google search anymore. It's Gemini. So you see people right off the bat just fully accepting whatever summary they get as the gospel now. And then even when they're having deeper conversations with whatever chatbot they're you know, working with, I think a lot of people just aren't aware of the fact that like this technology is designed to keep you engaged, and it will literally just continue to feed you bullshit if that's going to keep you engaged. So I wonder how this I wonder, like, you know, there'll be of course some some correction. You know, there'll be some improvement as far as accuracy with time. I would maybe, hopefully.
Probably.
I mean, I don't know. I want to say yeah, that's the case, but then you know you also have to look at the track record of the internet.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
going to happen.
It's like probably not, probably as good as it's going to get
We're
as far as
seeing,
accuracy
we're seeing
already.
the results of it now. We're seeing the results of it now. We're seeing that there's no substitute for experience. There's no substitute for time. There's no substitute for putting in the legwork. You know, everybody wants a shortcut.
Yeah.
There are no shortcuts sometimes. You have to live and learn, and through trial and error, make mistakes. You know, the younger generation, and I'm not knocking them in any way, they've been softened by this false reality, you know, that everything's easy and quick and fast, and just do this and it's all done. Nothing. There's no substitute for putting in the time and effort to make things work, and that's in breeding reptiles. You know, it's that simple.
When it comes to these LLMs, like you got to think about what's the source material, and it's already kind of generally accepted that the internet's a pretty poor place for reptile information. Well, that's all it's got.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have Vin Russo's brain for boas. I mean, I'm not sure if they're, you know, if AI are combing through podcasts and stuff like that. They'll probably find
they are. They absolutely are. That's why views are down across the board on YouTube. Everybody's views on YouTube views across the board for just about everybody right now have gone down.
I know.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. It's because Google is basically starting the trend of the conversation we're having right now is training those LLMs. It's training Gemini. This will be fed into Gemini.
Yeah.
And whether it's going to be a high priority, you know, piece of content or not, I think, you know, it's the three of us. Of course, it's going to be. But no, it'll be fed into Gemini's, you know, training data, and then, you know, what you're starting to see already. Like I saw, I can't remember what was the specific topic. It was something I saw that a YouTuber was mentioning. He was a computer, you know, he basically a computer tech channel on YouTube, and so he had a video that was on a specific problem and how to solve it. I think it was, I want to say it was an embedded system. It was like something really esoteric, like fixing a header file on some embedded system that he had made this really great video, you know, instructional video, step-by-step, how to correct this, how to fix it. And he said, you know, with this year, he's noticed that, you know, his views across the board are just tanked. No real apparent reason. And he said, but he's like, he noticed that if I look up that specific problem, instead of Gemini recommending my video for it, it spits out a summary step by step that's clearly pulled all the data from my video and gives that as a summary instead. So basically it's steals his content, gives a summarized version to the user, and then he gets no views or ad revenue from that. So that's what I think is happening with YouTube across the board. I think all the platforms are doing that right now.
Every form of media does that. It's steering, you know. That's all it is. You know, and it's all algorithms or who's paying the most.
Well, that's the other thing. That's what you're going to start. I think to see the transition to the more of a pay for play.
It's already happening now. Look at news media. Who's paying the most to push their fake news or their propaganda? They're the ones who are getting their stuff out. Not to sound political, I'm not getting into that in any way.
No, but it's everything. It's music.
Yeah.
It's, you know, everything is going the same direction with that. Where it's just a combination of like, because we're in a weird era with the AI stuff where basically all of our collective content has already been scraped and stolen. I mean, they already did it. They're now there's some lawsuits going on. Like there's interesting things going on in the music industry where there are some lawsuits that are happening with some of the major labels and with some of the platforms that do AI generative music, where you probably won't see, your average independent artists aren't going to see probably jack shit from it, but some of the major labels are actually going to be able to use reverse engineering technology to say, okay, this service generated this song, and the DNA of this song comes from 15 bits and pieces of our copywritten songs.
Yeah.
So Sony has tech to do that already, where they can reverse engineer an AI generated song and actually pinpoint, probably with pretty high degree of accuracy, like this lyric and this melody and this phrasing and these elements were all, this tone even is pulled from this old garage rock record that we have labeled, that's or that we have licensed. So it's interesting to see how that's working there, but I think with a lot of other spaces, it's going to be kind of a shit show, really. Like it's I don't see a lot of good coming out of it. I wish I could say that there was some. Not that it'll all be negative. I'm sure there will be some cool stuff that comes out, but I don't know.
But
it's the first time in my life that I have an outlook on tech where I'm like, man, this is really hard to see a good result in the long run with this. It's pretty hard. Like the short term looks appealing, and I get that to how it looks to most people, but the long term seems pretty bad.
I saw this coming for the last couple of years, and that was one of the major reasons why I started my Patreon. I was like, you know what? I might as well start my own little mini school on how to breed snakes, and just tell people my recipes and my secrets, and if you want to learn, you join the Patreon and you become a member, because I've seen so much
platform that's kind of isolated a bit from that, where you've got a little bit more control over it.
Yeah, I've seen so much bullshit online. It's disturbing, It's disturbing to see what's on there, and even the AI, like TikTok videos and Instagram videos. It's like the fake snakes jumping out, grabbing people, and and people send me these things thinking it's real, because they're not snakes. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't you see that that's a fake fucking snake?
That's really, and again, it sounds like a bit of a shitty criticism of people, but it's just the gullibility of most people is why I know it's going to go in a bad direction. Because it's like, you see people falling for shit where it's like, come on. I mean, I'll give you this. There's some of the most up-to-date, cutting-edge generative AI video tech and audio tech is insanely realistic. Some of it is. And if you have somebody who really knows how to write prompts correctly, they can generate some amazing stuff with it. And some of those things, I think there's even some positive elements of that. Like, I could see where if somebody's using some of that tech to make, a sci-fi film or something where they can do something creative with it, like I can't knock all of it. Some of it's got, some cool elements to it. But some of the stuff you see that's just like, man, this is absolute slop horseshit, and people are thinking this is legitimate. Like, how do you not immediately tell that that's phony? And then but that's the same thing even with the information that people will get in a summary, where it's like, if you know anything on this topic, you know that that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're getting fed bullshit, and you think, oh, okay, well, this is what you do.
Yeah.
How do I breed my boas? So I hang them upside down from the ceiling and swing them around on a tire, and whatever.
I even had a guy, this was like a year ago or 2 years ago, bought a snake from me. He spent a lot of money on like a leopard boa, and he was keeping it in a fish tank with a screen cover and a heat lamp, and I said, listen, and he was wondering why it didn't eat in a 70-degree house. I'm like, listen, you're not keeping it right. He's like, well, Chat GPT told me so that's how I'm going to keep it. I'm like, all right, I guess you don't have to listen to me then. Listen to Chat GPT.
I think
they give you the money for it when it dies too.
Yeah, I think that, I think that's going to be one of the an increasingly annoying thing to deal with is
Yeah.
the Chat GPT told me this, Chat GPT told me that,
It's all bullshit. I even
and
put
it's
stuff in there for shits and giggles just to see what the response will be because I know what the answer should be.
hmm
And it's so wrong. It's like, it's incredible how wrong it is. Even my kids they graduated college last year. Both of them were telling me that kids would write in their classes, would write a complete term paper from Chat GPT and submit it. And the smart professors who are older knew they were all bullshit, failed every one of those kids. But they were saying some of the younger professors got fooled. Like kids got away with it, did
I don't doubt
whole
it.
paper from Chat GPT, So it's like, am I the older reptile guy now who can't be fooled? And what about the 30-year-old millennial who can be fooled, who thinks he's a pro because he's been breeding snakes for 3 years,
Yeah.
So
It's wild, yeah. It's interesting, and what I watched a video that I think would be interesting for people to watch, even if they're not into like guitar stuff. But there was a video that for this guy Josh Scott from JHS Pedals, who makes guitar pedals, and he did he basically just did a little experiment looking into the history. Vin, you're probably familiar with MXR, the company MXR.
Yeah, I got MXRs right here.
Yeah, you probably got an MXR compressor at least or something, right? And
envelope filled.
Yep, exactly. So he basically just like as an experiment with ChatGPT, he's like asking it for information on the history of the company and the history on some of their pedals and what the circuit design is, what the history of that particular model that came out, all these kind of questions that have known answers to them. And it was just getting every fucking thing either completely wrong, or it's like mixing data up, like, it's getting the year right for this, it's getting the year right, but it's the wrong, circuit design that it's talking about or whatever. And just over and over again, confidently giving incorrect information. And then he would correct it or like ask it, where's your, where did you get that from? Where's the source? And what I think that a lot of people just probably aren't that aware of is that sometimes it's just going to make some shit up. It's just going to generate, it's going to hallucinate.
Yeah.
So it might take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and go, how about this? Eat this. Just take this as info.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wonder how that's going to impact our industry in the long run. Or even in the short term. I don't know if I've seen a ton of it yet, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot of it soon.
Yeah.
As it's more heavily adopted.
And even with the books I've written, Eco Universe, Bob Ashley, his company, they're believers in books, like the heft of a book in your hand. Like I don't think they even want to do audio books. They want to just do books. They want something that's written by somebody who knows what they're talking about. It's not just bullshit. So that was one thing that way back in 2004 or 5, when I first started talking to him about doing a book, that was one of the main things what we were talking about was we want to do a book. It's not going to be online. It's not going to be on video. It's not going to be on audio. It's not going to be on a cassette or a CD. It's going to be a book, So is it old fashioned? I don't think so. I think it's real information.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know. I don't see in the short term how AI can really like push our hobby or business forward much.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to do anything.
When you want to get into like the running a business stuff that's applicable everywhere, accounting and payroll and sure, fine, whatever. But as far as any sort of technical abilities of breeding snakes better, selling if you want to like internet algorithm type of stuff, like maybe, But I can't see a time anywhere soon where an LLM can tell you how to keep or breed your snakes better than any breeder
Exactly.
could. I don't know.
It boils down to this. It's like I used to be a contractor years and years ago. I still know how to swing a hammer. I still know how to do some light plumbing and electrical work. No AI job is going to take the job of a plumber, or electrician, or a carpenter, or a snake breeder. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
It's never.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, that I don't see anything like that happen. The bigger thing I see it's more of just like I foresee it being like just like an increasing pain in everyone who does breed snakes ass to have to constantly be like, no, that's bullshit. No, that's
well. It's the same with the same with the plumber and the electrician. You can go to Chat GPT and say, how do I change my my sink? True. How do I change it to shock bite? How do I sweat a pipe? It's going to give you something, which is bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to give you the 30 years experience of a carpenter or a plumber,
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. It wants things to be quick and easy and, oh, look, you can just do this,
Yeah, the goal of pretty much all of this tech is a frictionless interface, which is, in theory, sounds like, oh, yay, I don't, nothing. It's the easiest way to interact with anything, but people don't realize that like the complete lack of friction with these interfaces actually dumbs everything down and results in
it's the epitome of what's going on in our culture today. Everything's dumbed down. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rapid.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I don't have I guess I didn't really put a lot of thought into the potential positives of AI for the industry. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's some things that, like what you mentioned, like some of the stuff. There's a few things here and there, but the thing I could see record keeping being potentially. But then even with that, at some point you're handing over trust that there's not a shitload of mistakes and hallucinations going on in the back end of your your database there that
yeah, but then when it comes to record keeping,
correct.
I mean, I can't animating like input or automating input. Like, well, is there a bottleneck where just like you still got to feed it the information for record?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not going to be like leaps and bounds.
Any of the Clutch, our sponsor on the channel, like you're still just inputting information into a thing that stores your data.
Yeah.
How much is AI going to really refine that? Or maybe. I don't know how these technologies. Like, I've never used one of these softwares, so I don't know. Like, does it track like, here's the growth trajectory for this animal based on these different inputs of gram weight you've given us over the couple? Like, does it do that already? I don't know. Would that be an innovation of AI? But like, does that even fucking matter? Like, I don't. I haven't weighed a snake in forever. I look at it and look like that. You're good. Okay.
Right.
You need more food. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a guy on my Patreon who's got an app called Reptile Tracker, and I've been working with him a little bit just to get it going. And all it is tracking your reptiles feeding and breeding, and so I think what we're gonna do. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Technology right there. Peak technology. Whoever invented blue painter's tape, you peaked reptile tracking technology. It never needs to go anywhere beyond that.
I just use index cards. But anyway, I was telling the guy maybe we could input some of my recipes for breeding snakes and have that part of the tracker, So it's something we're working on, but I don't know how well it'll do. Neither does he. It's brand new.
Yeah.
So
I could see some potential there. I could see like some
cool
stuff coming out there, like being able to have a little bit easier of like retrieval of some data in a view that is a little just easier on the eyes, easier to consume and get your head around. Right. I could see some stuff there. So I could see some things there that would be cool. I don't know. I'm curious about it. Like what outside of that, I mean, I think I'm surprised we haven't seen more phony videos yet of people trying to pass that off, like scammers trying to use that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I think that's something that you're almost inevitably going to see is scammers, you know, generating videos and bullshitting people that way.
Yeah.
And what's tough about that is that, again, some of the tech, it's to the point, you know, where especially if it's the kind of video that isn't by nature crisp and clean, which is, you know, a lot of like phone videos. You know, if somebody's doing a quick video with their phone, it's going to have some smearing and artifacts. It's not going to be a Hollywood blockbuster film, you know, and those are easier for you know the generative video to emulate already, you know, because those artifacts can just be easily shrugged off as well. It's a phone video, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting time, that's for sure. Weird, but interesting nevertheless. I think on AI stuff, that was pretty much that. I mean, there's other stuff. Again, I don't want it to be a doomsday AI discussion. It could easily go down that route. I could easily go down that route with, you know, the impact it has on social media.
The death of herpetol culture because of AI.
Yeah, no, I don't think no shit like that. It's just, again, yeah, I think my overall feeling towards it is that it's pain in my ass is what I foresee more than anything in trying to combat BS.
Yeah.
But let's see, anything else?
Well, we're officially less than 20 minutes away from beating our record.
Are we gonna just beat the record for the sake of it?
I don't know. That's what you guys call. You guys are 2 hours ahead of me. I can't complain.
Yeah, I'm low on topics that I had specifically written.
We have an
down
interesting, an upbeat question from Brandon Wheeler here in the chat. So, a question for Vin: if he was going to purchase a Suriname locality boa today, which line would he choose to purchase?
That's an easy one. A Pokeground Suriname. Luckily, I don't have to purchase them. I already have them.
I had a feeling that was going to be the answer. I guess then let's extrapolate that a little bit. Why the Pokegrounds over any other Suriname?
You know, to me, they're like the epitome of a Suriname. You know, they've got all the best attributes of what a Suriname boa, to me, historically looks like. You know, they got the nice deep red maroon tail, the nice black markings around the tails, the buckskin color. They're variable. Some are really peaked, some aren't. You know, they're the epitome of what I saw coming out of Suriname as a young kid, and they're all wrapped up into one. And the great thing about them is they've been in the country for the last 20, 25 years. I was there when they first came in with Gus Renfro, when he got some from a guy when we were down in Florida, and you know, I've seen them go from wild caught animals to breeding them, and you know, multiple generations in captivity now. So to me, they're almost like bulletproof. They breed well in captivity because they are multiple generations in captivity. They're far removed from the wild type, although they look just like them. You know what I mean by far removed is they don't have any of the bugs of working with a wild caught animal. You know, they're almost domesticated in a way over the last 25 years. So yeah, and they don't come out of the wild regularly. I think they came into the country once. So if you can find them, some people on my Patreon have produced some litters of them. So they're around. That to me is the best locality because I know exactly where they came from. I know the guy that brought them into the country. All the other ones that are just generic Suriname, I mean, there's not too many localities out there. And then we go back even further and we use, you know, names like Tuda Hope and who's the other guy? I've got a couple of snakes from a few older breeder type guys that were making them, and they had names attached to them, which were guys' names, breeders' names, not locality names.
Okay.
So those
I've
are
heard
generic.
of the Tudahope stuff, but I didn't know the history of it.
Yeah, those came into the country just as surname bows, so we don't know the exact places. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
yeah,
Brandon also says snakes eating random stuff is already everywhere in AI. Yeah, I've seen a lot of silly shit. So much
Yeah,
content.
it's all stupid shit.
Yeah, a lot of dumb bullshit.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got here. Can I pull another? I'm just like,
You're grasping.
I want to beat the record just because I do. I don't want to pull total bullshit topics out of my ass, but let me see.
Make it a good one.
Let me see what I got here on different notes. Let's see. I wonder if there's one. I think I still got the note from our first one. There was probably some things we didn't get to in the first one that.
Some very very good notes you got there. Going back a year and a half.
Yeah, the note. I love the Notes app, the Apple Notes app. I just keep all the shit in there and go back to it. I think we have actually covered a lot of it. Damn.
Here's a question.
It's not a real crazy one, but
I got a
let's
tech
see.
question real quick. So should we drop
Okay.
the dwarf boa from smaller northern imperator and sigma?
That's Aurora. That's a friend of mine. Let's see. Well, they are small. Well, Sigma are smaller snakes. I would call them dwarf. Northern Imperator, probably not. But Sigma, you can probably still keep the word dwarf because they are small. But I mean, we've attributed the name dwarf or given the term dwarfism to boas specifically to some island types. But there's certain Sigma like Tarahumara boas that are genetically isolated, and they're a small race of snakes. So I would still keep them as the term dwarf, but I wouldn't call the Northern Imperators dwarf, especially mainland stuff. Maybe some island stuff, but not mainland.
Okay.
That's a good question.
I agree. Cool. So, Chris, what did you have?
I don't remember if we got into this at all. And Vin, I don't know if if we already went over this last time, we could skip it. But supplementation for snakes. I mean, I would let's keep it just to snakes because I know obviously there seems to be a lot of benefits for some of the lizard species. But what are your thoughts on that? Have you experimented much with that over the years as far as supplementing things? Because I know, like I've heard with chondros, wasn't it? Why can I not think of his name? Vladimir, the guy that bred at
Odinchenko?
Yes.
Yeah.
He did some supplementation, at least with females after they laid their clutches, I believe. Have you ever experimented with anything like that? Seen any good results or something? Just what are your thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, I've never bothered simply because, I've bred plenty of chondros back to back, and I haven't had any issues. Having less eggs or infertile eggs or unshelled eggs. So to me, they get everything they need out of a rodent.
Yeah.
They really don't need anything else. But for me personally, I only feed my chondros and most of my boas rodents that I make myself.
Yeah.
So it's what I put into the rodents that I have.
So that's what I was going to get into. You're basically kind of doing it through the rodents in a way, as far as you're keeping them as high quality as possible.
And myself and Quetzal Dwyer, who owns Reptilandia Zoo, he and I were talking about how not just snakes but certain reptiles, there's certain minerals that they get from their food items that they can't get in captivity. They You can only get them in the wild. And it's obviously minerals that are in the ground that, like I was saying before, a bug could be eating a mineral in the ground. A bird could be chewing clay from a cliff, you know, because parrots specifically eat clay from cliffs to put in their seed crops so they can digest seeds better, and also becomes part of their gut biome. But these things, some animals have evolved needing them in their diet. So it's like the prey item is, to me, the supplement.
Yeah.
You know, what we're feeding them. So I feed my mice a really good diet of a lab chow, and I also mix in other things. I'll give them seeds, and I'll give them dog food for fat sometimes. I'll give them Cheerios, believe it or not. I don't know if they like Cheerios. They like oats.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to mix it up and make the rodents as healthy as I could for the chondros and for the baby boas.
And you feel like you've noticed like differences, you know, like say, I'm sure you've obviously experimented with different diets for the rodents over the years. Do you feel like you've already been able to tell a difference in like how that's impacting the health of the animal, the snakes, as far as like, I remember, you know, 10 years ago I was doing this, and you know, you were maybe seeing little minor differences in the I don't know, behavior or the appearance or physical health with the snakes?
I'm noticing like the baby snakes harden off faster on the nice
I agree with that.
mice I make. You know,
Makes sense. Yeah.
Like the first thing I did last year after I had the fire was a friend of mine had mice that I gave him years ago. So he had my mouse colony, the identical genetic makeup of my mouse colony. So I asked him for a tub of mice just to get started, just to have them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Eugene said this in one of the podcasts he did with MJ. If you're going to breed snakes, start breeding mice first. And then when you have too many mice, then start breeding your snakes so they have something to eat, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I wanted that mouse colony back because they're really prolific. I've had that mouse colony since 1995, and I wanted to keep it going. And thank God I gave it to friends, and it's dispersed around. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's the first thing I did was get some, and I got some of my rats back too. I have a nice rat group that are highly prolific and they grow fast. So. To me, that's really important to have your own live food for your own reptiles, because you can pick the exact size you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know?
that's I want to eventually do that. As much as I don't want to raise them, I think that's the route to go. I mean, I'm lucky I've got a couple of local sources that are pretty easy, but nothing's easier than doing it yourself as far
It
as
really is.
flexibility.
And the thing for you, Chris, is like you could accomplish so much with like 3 tubs of mice.
Yeah, I don't need a huge.
You don't need that
facility,
much.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I have 7 tubs of mice, and I probably make, I don't know, maybe 150 poppers a week, something like that.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might try to start that up. Ellen's not going to be real thrilled with that one. But
If you
she'll be all right with it.
use a pelletized bedding, they make a pelletized bedding for horses. It's made of pine. It looks like rabbit pellets, but it's pine.
Mm-hmm.
You put that on the bottom of the tubs. You just put a thin layer of that on the bottom, and then on top you put pine shavings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you change that, I do it twice a week. Some people do it once a week. I do it twice because I don't like the smell.
Yeah.
But it won't smell at all if you do it twice a week.
Yeah, you just have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, and I've got 7 tubs of mice and 8 tubs of rats, and it takes me 30 minutes to change the bedding out twice a week, 30 minutes each time. And maybe another 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes to fill the water bottles twice a week.
Yeah.
And every time I clean them out, I clear out all the hoppers that are, you know, weaned, and leave room for the new pinkies that are usually in there. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I think it's I think I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and do that.
Do it in like a garage, or you know, you don't want to do them in your house, obviously. You know?
No, and the heat. Well, the thing with mice here that everybody struggles with is heat.
Yeah.
You know, rats I think are a little easier, but you know, I mean, I could.
Little air
I do like
conditioner, little exhaust fan, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
We had 99 degrees here last week, and my mice were up to 99 degrees, and they were fine. So I just had a fan blowing right on them.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't get my garage any colder than that, it was like,
wow.
You open the
it's getting.
I had the windows and doors open and an exhaust fan, but I'm just sucking in 99 degrees.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, just moving super hot air around basically at that point. I remember working in that kind of air. Oh, I don't miss that shit.
I got a nice little system that I've concocted in the room that I have my rodents in. It's actually right next to me, and within the window to the room, I could fit an exhaust fan and a window unit side by side. And I have the exhaust fan on a timer to where it goes off for it's like on for 20 minutes, like off for 50. And so it's not just straight sucking all the cold air constantly, but it's still cycling the air through. And I mean, even 105 degree days, it's keep it in like the high 70s. And man, if it's cleaning days tomorrow, you can stand outside the room and not smell it. It's pretty fantastic. Nice. And I have 28 pans in there. So it I've gotten a nice little.
I definitely attribute my success.
You got a little bit of experience there. I would imagine that helps with your previous
definitely attribute my success in breeding snakes to having my own mouse colony for the last.
Yeah. But yeah, Vin, I totally agree with what you said about them hardening off quicker, because I only use the seed mix feed. Mm-hmm. I don't use any lab block. I don't have enough where I can get away with it. And yeah, like three live hoppers or whatever they're snakes. They're
nice.
And I feel like they grow a lot faster. Their coloration is better. They seem just more like vibrant all around. Their eyes are brighter. I can tell a difference.
I mean, I look at my hoppers that I just pull from a pan, and I look at hoppers that I bought frozen, and the hoppers that I bought frozen look skinny and scrawny, and my hoppers are like chubby, you know? So I know that's what I'm getting into the snake, that chubby, well-fed hopper, you know? So once a boa, like Steven was saying, baby snake eats 3 or 4 of those, they're bulletproof, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, and that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's like you're providing a higher quality prey item. They're getting hopefully more of the nutrients that they need right off the bat, and so they're going to be, physiologically and psychologically stronger.
Here's the other issue, and I talk about this. I've talked about it in the past. Most of the frozen rodents that we're getting in the country right now, commercially, are from China.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know what the hell they're feeding them. And I'm not saying they're feeding them poison or they're feeding them, strychnine. They're not. But we don't know what they're feeding them. It's something that doesn't cost them a lot of money, because those mice are coming here pretty inexpensively.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't I don't trust it.
With that too.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if I would want to feed those to my snakes.
Well, the thing that scares me more than anything about the Chinese rodents is just you have no idea how old these rodents are.
Yeah.
By the time, I mean, those container ships sail across the ocean for quite some time.
Yeah.
How long does it take them to build up enough stock where they have a container's worth to send?
Right.
And then they hit the States. Rarely do they ever hit the States to the person who was going to sell it directly to you.
Right.
They change hands 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And then the way the irradiation process works, because they're shipped in these refrigerated containers in non-insulated boxes. Well, the irradiation machine is not very big. So they go on a conveyor belt in these non-insulated boxes, and sometimes it's the summer in Southern California, and they're sitting outside for however long before they become irradiated, go back into any sort of cooled transport. All right, well, the outer layers of that have probably experienced some thawing. If they were pinkies or fuzzies, maybe they even completely thawed and will freeze back again.
Right.
By the time you get those rodents, they could have been perfect.
Right.
Like from the
initially.
lab in
Right.
China, that could be the best bag of mice you could buy in the entire world. By the time they get to you, change hands 3 or 4 times, thaw and refreeze once or twice, they could be a year old and twice refrozen, and you have no fucking idea. You have no way to know.
Yeah.
There's so many steps along that process where something can fuck up that has nothing in it's not in your hands, nor is it in the facility in China's hands.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and that's the thing with
what gets me.
With local, so like with local suppliers, you know, I've been somewhat lucky, but there's always ones that drop off out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So it's like you know, when you have the ability to get them straight from somebody that you know locally, that works great until they, you know, stop returning your calls or texting or just, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. They experience the wipeout, you know, something happens or whatever. So, and that's of course notoriously the case with you know, the smaller local producers. So
No, I'm fortunate currently. I have a good friend locally who's breeding rats, and you know, I'll even go over, help them out for a little while, and they'll give me some credit and grab me some rats at the end. So yeah, it's like the perfect setup. Basically, anything that's smaller than a medium rat, I'm producing in the next room, and then like medium and large rats, I get for my friend. I'm like,
nice,
sick.
I'm trading my rat guy frozen mice for frozen rats.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah,
beautiful.
There you go. So what does Steve say here? He said, have you noticed if northern emeralds had different head shapes from different locales? Yeah, head shape is a weird thing with emeralds. We did it. Did we beat it?
We did it.
Oh yeah. Shit, yeah. Let's run it up to 445.
Fuck no.
I'm just kidding. I know. I feel bad. I can tell you're getting tired. I'm fairly tired at the moment too. But
really,
yeah, more than usual.
That's crazy. I didn't know you got tired at night.
I don't usually. I'm pretty much fully nocturnal. So, Steve says, have you noticed if emeralds have different head shapes from different locales? Honestly, I don't know what the hell exactly is going on with head shapes in emeralds, because I thought, based on what I had, you know, heard and read and everything, up to the point when I first started keeping them, I figured it was somewhat cut and dry that, you know, Basin's head shapes are, you know, one way, Northerns are another. Male heads look like this, female heads look like that, without a lot of variation. But as I started slowly building up with a collection of wild-caught ones, and then even more so as I've produced my own, you know, a decent number of them, it just seems way more variable than that. And same thing with head scalation as well. Like, I mean, a pure Basin definitely looks different than any of the Northerns that I've seen. But I've got a couple of Northerns that lean more towards what, you know, you would classify as Batesi. You know, both in the scalation, the size of the scales, and then also their head shape in general, and to some degree their behavior. I feel like their tongue flicks are a little different, their head movements a little different. So I don't really know exactly. And head shape between male and female, I don't feel like it's quite as cut and dry, at least as I thought it was initially. I've had, you know, I've got a female. I was gravid right now with her second litter, that if you were to look at her head, you would think male. You know, that's that animal white rose. And then I've had a couple of males that you would look and think female. And I don't know. So I don't know if I don't have enough experience with Basins to know if it's the same level of variability within Basins, but within Northerns it seems to be highly variable.
Okay.
And since we don't really know locales, we don't really know what we have, you know, other than just did it come in a Suriname shipment or a Guyana shipment, and even then, you know. So that's been my experience with it so far, anyways.
All right. Cool.
But yeah, that's that.
But yet, the locality chondros all have different shaped heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the chondros, it seems more clear.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like the same thing with phenotype with the emeralds. Like I felt like there was more I don't know. I'm just seeing more variability within each litter than I expected to, and even with the anaconda phase is the same thing. Like I my view of them, I've stated it before. Like what I thought was a kind of a very clear, well defined. This is exactly what most anaconda phase look like. It's just not true. After I produced several litters of them, it's like some of them have damn near as much white in the pattern as a normal.
Right.
So, so that's what I see on that.
Yeah. Cool.
Steven's like, he's hovering over the end show button right now.
Well, no, I'm not sure if Brandon's still listening, but he asked this question a little while ago. Did him and Nick have the record?
I think they do. Yeah, I think
no,
they do.
It got
They
beat
don't?
very shortly thereafter with it was a scrub roundtable. It was Ryan Young, Brian Fisher, and Rob Christian. We did 4 hours and 8 minutes.
4 hours and 8 minutes. Well, now.
And with Nick and Ryan, Nick and Brandon, we did 4 hours even. So
409 is the number.
I'll go lay down if you guys want to talk for another 20 minutes. I'll come back and hit end.
It's fine. How about we'll make a pact that next time we go 409.
We'll start an hour earlier. How about that?
We'll start early.
Yeah, that works. That works. Start an hour earlier, run an hour later.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys so much for being here for this marathon tonight. I truly did not think we were going to do this again, but here we are, 3 hours and 50 minutes.
It's been a good one, man. Always a good time.
This really has been definitely lived up to the standard set by the first episode. So, Chris, I'll start with you. Where can people find you? Keep up with you on social media, inquire about availability.
Social media, I mostly just do Instagram, so it's Snake Spirit at the moment. And you can just message me there, and if it's a good day, I will respond.
All right.
I'm pretty notorious for not being the best at that, which I do need to improve on. But I will say it also depends on how you come at me. I'm not a big fan of, one-word inquiries or two-word inquiries.
Yeah,
it can be a bit of I have a little bit of a soup Nazi tendency from Seinfeld.
I used to have something on my social media that said, if you email me or message me without a name, I'm not replying.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic requirement. I would say it's fair.
Yeah. How about, hi, this is Joe. I'd like to know if you have this boa. Do you have this boa? Blank.
Yep. So be a normal human and communicate like a normal human, and Chris will respond to you. If not, you made your own bed. All right, so Vin, how about you? Where can people find you? And shout out to Patreon as well.
Sure, they can get me at www.cuttingedgeherp.com, which is my website. I'm also on Instagram as Cutting Edge Herp. I also have a Patreon, which is Vin Russo Masterclasses Boas. So you can go to Patreon and check that out and become a member. We have monthly meetings with the middle tiers. We have monthly group video chats on Discord. The higher tiers have a monthly one-on-one video chat for an hour with me, talking about recipes for breeding their boas. And luckily, most of the people that have been on there have been quite successful in getting their boas to reproduce. So
cool.
I'm revealing my trade secrets, but only to my Patreon members.
Yep. You got to pay for it, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you guys so much. This was a fantastic episode in every way possible. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, man.
All right.
So we're at 3:52. All right.
All right. So thank you to everybody who tuned in, and catch you all back here next week for a new episode.
Good night, Joe.